It's a beautiful new day, another terrific Thursday. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I'm always in the company of Bernice Abubedu Lanta, and we come to you in your homes, and we're so glad when you accept us. So from us to you, thank you for welcoming us into your homes. Now today it's quite the mouth-watering lineup like you would always expect from us on the AM show. Let's start with the news, which will be coming your way shortly. We'll bring you all the tidbits you need to know in Ghana and likely beyond. And right after that, we'll be joined by Kweku Painto, a lawyer for our news review. Sports will be next, and then we get into our big stories. Now, we're going to be discussing myriad issues, from the happenings in Asin North to the bullion van incident to other matters of national concern, other germane matters to our lives. And we'll be joined there by Member of Parliament for South Dai, Roxanne Nelson Dafeamekpor. He is our guest from the NDC side, and from the NPP side, we'll be joined by the Member of Parliament for Anyao Soutwum. I'm talking about none other than Dr. Dixon Adumakukisi. Both gentlemen, fine brains, will help us elevate the conversation this morning on those all-important matters. But then from there, we'll be talking education. The University for Professional Studies, Accra, is going to be contemplating university education in Africa, the quality of same, and present and future markets. We're going to be contemplating that conversation with them, even in anticipation of an event they are having this week, including a book launch. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time for us to get into the nitty-gritty right here on the AM show. That's our lineup. As always, what is the show without you? So we'd love to hear from you. At the tail end, when we activate the phone lines, give us a call. Be one of those standing by. And when in the course of the live stream, just shoot us a message. Let's know what is on your mind so we can refine the show and make it even better for your consumption. On that note, let's stay for the news. Up next. Welcome to the News Belt, and in our first story, a poll by think tank Institute for Liberty and Policy Innovation has revealed government has wasted more than 73 billion Ghana cedis on programs and key decisions. Ilapi believes this is a reason some Ghanaians are against the introduction of new taxes. Executive Director Peter Bismarck Kofi disclosed this at the launch of government's waste report in Tema. Correspondent Kwame Yanka reports.
The perception research conducted by think tank Institute of Liberty and Policy Innovation (ILAPI) between August and November 2022 sought to gather information from the public on their perceptions on government wasteful spending from 2014 to 2021. ILAPI reviewed existing literature on government flagship programs and statutory demands for key concepts, sources, and evidence available. 2,000 respondents took part in the questionnaire-based poll that used digital and online platforms including ILAPI website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, WhatsApp, with volunteers from all 16 regions engaged to assist. Presidential travels, Saglemi Housing Project, National Cathedral, establishment of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, government appointees, planting for food and jobs, fighting galamsey, among others, are some areas Ghanaians perceive government is wasting taxes on. Peter Bismarck Kofi is the Executive Director, Institute for Liberty and Policy Innovation.
If we had done this sector by sector, and we have done it on almost all the government flagship program from 2014 up to date, we should be recording more than 73 billion Ghana cedis as waste. These are just selected programs, and they were selected based on their perception. So if they choose appointees, then we go back to research on appointees and find out why they meant that as waste. If they say ex gratia, then we go to research on why they think ex gratia is a waste. If, assuming we did more, look, we even did only 1 year of the government machinery expenditure, which was 3.5 billion. If we had done that from 2014, how much government spent in government machinery, Flagstaff House, expenditure there, for just a year? And then we continue with the next year, 2015, 2016, up to 2021. You can imagine. Just a year was 3.5 billion.
Meanwhile, Peter Besmak-Kofi says the research indicates duplication of state institutions is one of the means taxes go down the drain.
You know, corruption in itself is a waste, right? And the fight on corruption also is the waste. So you have double edge there. The Attorney General itself has allocated funds as part of its function to prosecute when corrupt-related activities are conducted and people are held as part of the process. But what do we see? How many times do we see some of these activities ongoing? So if Attorney General in itself is failing, do you think we need another institution to take a fraction of its activities to fight corruption? Whereas there are a lot of institutions that have been duplicated already. Look at Shrike is part of the process. You know, Shrike can also fight corruption in terms of conflict of interest and stuff. But they are all there. Okay? So we cannot use taxpayers' money to create a lot of institutions fighting the same thing over and over.
According to the research, 90.5% of Ghanaians have lost trust in government due to corruption and lack of accountability. Kwame Yankes reports for Joy News.
Now, in our next story, illegal mining has left many river bodies unsuitable for both industrial and domestic activities. The Technology Consultancy Center of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology has been building water filters to ensure affected areas are able to get clean water. Love FM's Kwesi Deborah has more on Tech Thursday.
So these are the materials that we'll be using for the production of the water filters. We have the binder and the kaolin clay and water.
So after the mixture, we sieve the mixture to remove all the unwanted materials that was mixed with the clay and other things.
After we are done sieving it, you could see that the water and then the clay and then the other ingredients inside are not well mixed. So we usually mix it together to get a very smooth and uniform texture for the production.
So this is what we've gotten after the sieving. We have to mix them uniformly before we start casting. So you pour gently. This is the second running, topping up.
Because of the nature of materials that we use, you have to make sure that every composition that you prepare must be finished. If you don't finish it, what will happen is for a day or two, there will be a fermentation taking place, creating more bigger pore sizes. Okay, that also has its own application, but that's not what we want as entrepreneurs or as businessmen wanting to make money for the purpose with which it has to do. Yes, of course, when it ferments, we have this macro pore sizes, which we use in pre-treating the industrial waste first before fine treating or fine treatment of the pre-treated water for whatever application you want to do, either food processing or drinking in the house and that kind of thing. So despite that it's a don't, it also has its own interesting application.
After casting, you leave them for some few minutes, and after that you pour out the excess that are in the mold. This is the final product you will get after the casting, and it's called water filter. So we make plenty of these ones, and they are used in filtering water for domestic and industrial use.
Well, let's head to the Bono East region now, where Techiman Municipal Imam of Al-Hulsuna Wal Jamaa, Imam Idrisu Suleiman, wants Muslims across the country to report suspicious characters who hide behind Islam to execute their selfish acts of terrorism. The Imam, who was speaking during the Eid al-Adha prayers, also called on Muslims to report such characters to the police to curb their dangerous activities. Anas Sabit now reports.
Muslims across the world are observing the Eid al-Adha festival today, one of the two main holidays celebrated in Islam. The festival honors the willingness of Abraham to sacrifice one of his sons as an act of obedience to God's command. The tradition of Eid al-Adha involves the observation of the Eid prayers, slaughtering sacrificial animals and sharing the meat in 3 equal parts for family, relatives and friends, and for the poor. Municipal Chief Imam for Al-Sunnah Al-Jamaa in Techiman, Imam Idris Suleiman, used the opportunity to caution Muslims to stay away from involving in acts of terrorism, as Islam, which means peace, speaks against this group who hide behind Islam to execute their selfish interests, all in the name of jihad.
I talk about terrorism. These terrorists, the West African terrorists, claim they are Muslims. When they are coming, they told him that we are Muslims, we are doing jihad. Even the Holy Prophet did jihad. I want to tell them that it is not true. So those coming and claiming they are jihadists, they are not jihadists. They are rather terrorists.
He called on Muslims to report suspicious characters to the police to help protect the community from their dangerous activities.
If you hear about any one of them, try to inform the police. That would only be the solution for that problem. Inform the police so that police will know what to do with them.
Imam Idris Suleiman also touched on the negative effects of drug abuse in the various Muslim communities, adding that this has the tendency of increasing crime within the community.
There are so many Muslims who think that there is difference between alcohol and drugs. Drugs are part of alcohol. Drugs you are taking, it contributes to our poverty, one. Secondly, as we are no more strong, it is weakening our strength. So we should call the youth to know what drugs is. They should quit from the drugs so that we will have an healthy society whereby we can speak with healthy minds, healthy people.
Some of the many Muslims here lauded the Imam for the topic chosen and shared with us what they make of today's khutbah.
Imam spoke a lot and he talked about terrorism. Yeah, he said one thing that touches me. He distinguished between jihad and terrorism. People misquote jihad as terrorism. So don't see somebody wearing Islamic attire or claiming to be a Muslim to be something is fighting for. No, jihad is different, terrorism is different.
We give thanks to Almighty
wants
Allah.
authorities to work towards dealing with the menace of drug abuse amongst the youth, adding that this is breeding all forms of social vices within the Muslim community.
What I will touch on is the drug issue. In fact, for drug issues, it's really affecting us, and it's really being something that the authorities have to give a second look at it, because when you come to this community or the community of Muslims, Techiman is not going to be precise. In fact, it's nothing to write home about. In fact, you will be marveled to see kids at early as 10 years, 13 years, you see them with all sorts of drugs, to the extent that they are school dropouts. And they tend to be beggars, thieves, and what have you. Because the mother of all social vices is drugs. Because when you are on drugs, you cannot do anything for yourself. So I think we pray to the authorities to do something about it. And we pray to the Almighty Allah to come to our aid to help deal with this thing and change our people.
Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Tichiman.
Well, staying on the Eid, Muslims in the Upper West region joined their colleagues from the rest of the country to celebrate this year's Eid al-Adha. Now, Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam, who joined the celebrants, reports that the occasion served as a reunion for some of them.
Several thousands of worshippers of the Ahmadiyya Muslim faith, majority of whom gorgeously and exquisitely dressed in white apparel, converged at the Zuzairi Gardens for the 2-rakat open prayer. The yearly congregational prayer is laced with 12 takbirs, signifying the 12 calendar months, with the first 7 performed in the first rakat. On all occasions, the Imam raised his hands towards the ears, saying, Allahu Akbar. Our power Sudan missionary of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission, Molvi Masru Ahmed Muzaffar, led the prayer. He later delivered a short sermon reminding the worshippers of the sacrifices made by Prophet Abraham, urging them to emulate his exemplary life.
So today I just wanted to let our members should know the sacrifice which we are doing every year, years upon years. It is one incident and so many explanations. Today the explanation, Allah the Almighty says, the sacrifices which we are doing, the blood and the meat can never reach to the God. Walakin yanallahu taqwa, that what thing reaches to the God Almighty is this, the taqwa, the fear of Almighty Allah and the love of Almighty Allah which reaches to Him.
Some of the worshippers share their thoughts on the celebration of the Eid al-Adha.
This occasion has been born out of the sacrifice of Abraham and Ishmael together with the mother. And this was a solemn situation where Ishmael would have been sacrificed. But Allah made it this way for us, and instead of killing Ishmael, they have substituted with a ram or some other animal. So it's an occasion for us to reflect, all Ghanaians, that what brings to bear on all of us as citizens is to sacrifice, so that the generality of citizens in this country will enjoy any kind of governance. Any kind of hardship will not be tolerated by Allah Almighty. So the duty bearers are duty bound to do service to humanity.
And this is the big day for Muslims around the world and for any other person who wishes to join. And I'm very glad to send a message of peace to every single person to continue to observe this for the next couple of days, which will go a long way to enhance the celebration and peace to everybody.
Sacrificing animals does not mean that you are just killing the animal. You have to sacrifice all the negative tendencies in you so that you will live a good life. So that is what I think about this Eid.
It's been successful, it's nice, it's one of the important things for a Muslim, and we traveled all the way from Accra to join our family and then to celebrate it together.
Brings us together, we meet family members, we take a long time to see. People travel from far and come home, and it's a beautiful experience.
Eid al-Adha, or the festival of sacrifice, is not just about the 2 open rakat prayer. For some, it is about family reunion, and that's the reason why some people will fly from the other side of the Atlantic to be part of the celebration.
I come all the way from the United States, particularly Boston, to come to pray at home because it's always a blessing to be here every year. The unity, the love, the joy is just always overwhelming, and I feel that this is a place for me to always come to feel the human feeling about my community. not a life of wealth, but a life of being together and enjoying one another.
Meanwhile, Upper Wasujan Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Sali urged worshippers of the Orthodox Muslim faith to join hands with municipal and district assemblies in the region to keep the environment and towns clean at all times. Dr. bin Sali made a statement when he joined congregants of the Orthodox Muslim sect, arguably the largest Muslim sect in War, at the Nasiri Bomb the Second Park for the prayer.
Furthermore, the leadership of the region needs your maximum support in the fight against the impacts of Fulani herdsmen with large numbers of open education and other social measures which affect our well-being. I want therefore to urge all of us to cooperate and join hands with the municipal and district assemblies in the region to keep our environment and the township clean at all times.
Imam of the West Central Mosque, Imam Alhaji Yaya Punjang, led the prayer. Among the maze of worshippers was the overlord of the Wala traditional area, now Hussein Sidi Pilipo IV. Prayers were later said for the leadership of the nation and also for the maintenance of peace and stability of the country.
Reporting for the news, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Well, let's talk national science and math quiz now. And it would not be expected that Okomfo Anokye would break his allegiance to the Asante Kingdom in pursuit of his own ambitions. But in a surprising turn of events, a school named after the revered Asante fetish priest, Okomfo Anokye Senior High School, ditched loyalty to the kingdom to boot out Asanteman SHS and make their first appearance at the National Science and Math Quiz. They beat them by a 4-point margin to secure a slot at the preliminary stage of the competition. Emmanuel Braikweku has more.
Wonderful Anokye, wonders shall never ever rise. Beside the school's name, we shall learn, we shall learn, we shall grow, we shall grow, we shall set Mother Ghana. Blaze the words, we fear no foe. Blaze the words as a mission to accomplish. We shall pursue until victory is ours.
Definitely, they shall pursue until victory is theirs. These are the students from Okomfo Anokye Senior High School. In what I describe as an Asante battle between them, Asanteman, Okomfo Anokye Senior High School, Asaribediako, and then Joabin Senior High School. That is an Asante clash, I call it. They have managed to overtake them. They subdued Asanteman, beating them by some 4 points. They had 33 points as against Asanteman's 29 points. So you understand that they have renounced Asanteman. Okomfo Anokye has renounced Asanteman, and today Okomfo Anokye Senior High School is making their first time into the National Science and Maths Quiz. Coming into the contest, most people would have written you off because they know Joabin has the experience, as Aribediako is there, and even Asanteman. But your students pulled a surprise out of nowhere. Today, you are going to the championship for the very first time. How does this make you feel?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Actually, I came for the balloting. I got the mandate from my boss, who is the main coordinator. So when I came for the balloting, and I saw that Asanteman and then Joabin featuring Asaribediako. In fact, there is a biological term called loop-doop. So my heart rate was beating loop-doop. It was beating what? Loop-doop. But I never gave up. So what happened was that I told my squad that we should sit down. So we burned the midnight oil at the lab 24/7 learning, but not knowing that Asanteman comes nowhere to us. Not knowing that Joabin, not knowing that Sarkodie. So we want to let them know that now we are targeting Prempe Khalid.
Your eyes already red. I can see you've cried a lot. You sat on the stage. How did you feel answering the question? I realized you were just making your students happy. How did that feel?
At first, I was not I was not having the confidence. So when got the first question wrong, and then it follows. So when we got the next one, and then they clapped their hands for us, I got the confidence that there is hope. So
how does this make you feel, leading your school to the championship for the very first time? I would say you are, let's say, the Yasantua for Confanoche. How does that make you feel?
I'm very happy and I very humble for them believing in me that I can perform this, because if not for the advice given to me when I was about to go on the stage now, I don't even know how to express myself, but I thank everyone for trusting me and giving me the opportunity to be on stage.
Sure. I'm so overwhelmed. Like, it's out of imagination. We even didn't think about this victory at all. And at least this is our first time. We have had several trials, several contests with great schools, and we always run last. But this is so surprising and amazing. We thank God for today.
Finally, you told me your target is Prempeh College, Opokuware. What message you have for them?
Prempeh College, seniors, Opokuware. Please, I want you to know, I want you to watch here. This is your campus. Now, the regional championship, we want to be in the same seat with you, and we are coming live and coming.
The teachers, the students, and even old students of Akofanochi Senior High School says they brought the Sikeja Kofi into the Ashanti land. So this time round, during the regional championship for the Ashanti region, they are hoping to make it and clinch it for the very first time as they are moving ahead to the national tournament for the very first time. From here in Kumasi, my name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.
And it's on that celebratory note that we cap off the AM News. But do stay with us. Kweku Painter, a lawyer, joins us for the news review. Well, thank you for staying with us on the AM show. Our apologies for the slight delay. We faced a bit of a technical glitch. But here we are, and Kweku Painter, a lawyer, joins us as we get into the diet of papers we have this morning. It's a short stack we have. It's just the Daily Graphic, the Daily Guide, and the Business Finder. But there are many issues that have arisen that we're going to be discussing with him. We just might go online as well to check out what the portals are saying. Well, let me say a very good morning to Kweku Painter. Good morning, sir. You would have to unmute, Mr. Painter. All right, we'll try to get back to lawyer Kweku Painter. In the interim, you know the segment is always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and it's same for today. Now, here's what they are offering you. If you're a man, they're offering you prostate screening, gratis, for free. If you're a woman, they're offering you, well, fertility screening, also for free. Now, do you know your status? Have you even ever checked your prostate? If you haven't, you're treading on dangerous grounds, because nowadays it is known that very young people, even in their 30s, are coming up with prostate-related issues. If you're a man, you don't want to take that for granted. As for the female fertility issues, we know about the fibroids and many other things that are creating or wreaking havoc on women's reproductive capacities. So you don't want to take any of that for granted. That is why all of us must head to Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Now, here's where you can find them. Here in Accra, they're at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronoma here behind the Angel Educational Complex. In Takrade, they can be located at the Anaji Estates in Tema. Back in the Greater Accra region, they are located in Community 22. Then there's Techiman Hanswa and Esiama and Zema. I'm sure you'd like to call them, which you should. And the numbers to call, 0244 867 068, 0244 867 068. There is also 0274 234 321, 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of the news review. Let's try one more time with lawyer Kweku Paintel. Good morning, sir. All right. So we'll proceed as and when we can get Kweku Paintel, we'll connect him. But I want to find out from you two things I want you to share your thoughts with me on. One has to do with Asin North. And tomorrow, as I share my blunt thoughts, it's one out of three crucial issues I'm going to be delving into. What do you make of what happened there? What do you make of the verdict of the people? What do you make of the money that was thrown at people, allegedly, from both sides? The NDC, according to some people, complicit. The MPP also complicit. But you heard the chant at the end of the entire contest and the collation of votes and all of that. Some people singing that they had chopped Charles Opoku's money and he had voted against him. But the element I want us to focus on, two of them. One, the fact that our democracy is growing and we can have a by-election this peacefully. Kudos, I salute the Ghana Police Service for the work they did there, ensuring that there was sanity, though there were a few skirmishes here and there, but largely peaceful. So our democracy is growing. If people can, take it, it's criminal. It's not right for them to take money from these people. But even if they did and they exercised their franchise with their conscience, I feel that is apt. But the role of money in our politics is not something we can run away from. How do we deal with this issue? What are your suggestions? I'd like you to share those with me this morning. Just shoot us a message. Don't make it too long. Shoot us a message. Let me know. The second issue has to do with, yes, it's topical, and it also reflects on our society in myriad ways. I've listened to very prominent people, common people, speak to this issue. Yvonne Nelson and Sarkodie, and how the different dynamics. I don't think either one of them is guilt-free, but the tenor the conversation has taken, and the jabs and the stabs and the disses, what do you make of them? Are they being mature enough? Both of them. But maybe even more Sarkodie. For me, when he hadn't responded after a while, I felt, oh, lovely. He's just going to let sleeping dogs lie. It's not everything you try to explain away on. My opinion, I'm not blaming him, I'm not faulting him, but some of his language, for me, was in poor taste. Some of it. I'm not saying he can't defend himself, and I'm a man. I understand that in our society, sometimes the man is always perceived to be wrong, no matter what. It's a lose-lose situation. You will never be right. But sometimes it's okay. It's okay. You were 22? She was 25. Some would say she should have known better. But there are so many dynamics. Share your thoughts with me on these two matters, yeah? I'd love to know. Lawyer Paintel, can you hear me now?
I hear you, yes.
Great. Do you have any thoughts on those two matters? As for Asin, we'll be getting into it, so you can reserve your comments. But do you have any thoughts on the Yvonne Nelson Sarkodie drama that is playing out?
Personally, I think once in a while, it's good that we have these kind of discussions. However, and no matter how unsavory these exchanges would be, at least it lets everybody know that we must be extremely careful about everything we do, because one day nobody knows and these issues can come up. It only means that we must be careful what we do in secret, what we do publicly, because nothing is hidden. But apart from that, if I see the nature of the conversation that is going, I think they just need to be cautioned. It's like
who needs to be cautioned?
Like, let sleeping dogs lie.
Lawyer, please clarify for me. I want to find out.
Commentary.
Lawyer Paintel, can you hear me?
Going on, and it's when it comes to that I believe somebody needs to caution both of them or all of them. So that's the way I see it. But what it means is that once in a while we will all come to see that the people that are out there that we see, whom we even think are models for our children and so forth and so on, they're human beings like us. The Bible says Elias was like passion. Elias, in spite of everything that he did, at the end of the day, was like any other human being. So I believe that's a very useful lesson that we all get to know, so that sometimes we don't even judge ourselves too low. I mean, that possibly we are not able. But at the end of the day, my view of this matter is that we all should strive to live the best of lives that we can.
Okay.
Because the exchange about abortions, maybe yes, have come out. I mean, that's just one abortion. We know of women who have 3, who have 4, who have 5, and so forth and so on. So we must all be careful. We live in a glass house, and it is only one day that that glass house will be exposed to the public.
Right.
So that's the way I'm looking at it now.
All right. Thank you for sharing your quick thoughts on that matter. I await hearing yours as well. Yes, you watching us right now. But let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper now. Why EA secures jobs for 84,000 youth in 6 months. While I don't mean to put a dent on this, sometimes you ask yourself, with all these claims and the things we tout, we've created 150,000 jobs, 300,000 jobs, 1 million jobs. Sometimes you ask yourself where the jobs are being created, where the jobs are. But I'll get the details from the story so we can all share our thoughts on them. Things getting better. Economy grows 4.2% first quarter. That's according to President Akufo-Addo. Then there's democracy is about development. Jachi Kwesen says so. The newly elected or still retained Member of Parliament for Asin North. Then there's dispute resolution. Judge affirms judiciary traditional authorities partnership. And then President Lord's peaceful poll at Asin North. On the back page, Nzulezu, or I hear from those there that it's Nzulezu in the language. Jomoro communities flooded, and this is pathetic. This is pathetic. When you look at the scenes from there, it is in fact pathetic. It reminds me of the last time I went to Titegu and some incidents there. If you look at how water had engulfed the area, gone into people's rooms, destroyed property, it's pathetic. But let's start from the start, yeah? Things getting better. Now, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has stated that the government will continue to pursue policies and programs that have ensured that, quote, things are getting better. He gave the assurance that things would continue to get better. Now, the president said the attitude and commitment of the government in maintaining flagship policies, programs, and evolving new strategies in the face of the economic crisis that enabled it to secure an IMF program in record time would be the same in navigating the turbulence. Those policies, the president added, had resulted in the economy growing by 4.2% in the first quarter of the year. He also said that in spite of the hardships precipitated by the COVID-19 pandemic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the government was standing by its major policy commitments. He said, we have continued to keep the lights on. We have continued to provide free SHS education, he stated. But the free SHS, the IMF lawyer Painsel has said it is poorly targeted. Recently, I listened to Stephen Amwa, Member of Parliament for Ishaya, so Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, who said, look, every policy after a while ought to be looked at. So he thinks the right way to go is to tweak it. And when Mr. President also talks about the economy and everything that is happening, there are some question marks. In fact, many question marks when he talks about we have continued to keep the lights on. The IPPs, Lawyer Painsel, are threatening to take our lights away because of the debt that we owe them. What are your quick reflections on what the president is saying vis-a-vis what the reality is?
Well, the only reason we live is to ensure that things get better. And the duty of government in the very first place is to ensure that things get better. The only problem arises only when the measure of things getting better is in dispute. What is the index? What is it that we used to measure? Unfortunately, in this country, like those of us, or I'm speaking for myself, I watch CNN a lot. We've got institutions, individuals who do what they call fact-checking. In other words, when politicians come up and put up statements, we have institutions who are able to determine on an index-to-index basis what they call the truth or the falsity of a particular allegation. So let's take the indices. Which one? Do we, for instance, use the rate of the dollar against the cedi? Because that is one of the very first things that determines the prices of things on the market. Every time that you go to the market and they are giving you a new price, They tell you, it's amazing. Market women tell you it's the dollar, and you don't even know what they bring into the country that makes the dollar, the measure of our economic well-being. But what it means is that we have lived in a country, we've got to a point in time where almost everything that's going up is dependent on what they claim is the relationship of the dollar to the cedi. So if, for instance, that's a common index that everybody's using, it will be difficult to say that things are improving, are really improving. That's just the first point. And so forth and so on. When you take this across this thing, you know, we have not been given. Is it, for instance, and of course, our economists, I'm talking about the Office of Government Statistics, they try to bring out the things on the market, even ordinary products, tomatoes, call it pepper, bag of rice, bag of grain. All those things are the true measure. If somebody can tell me that between the time that the IMF package came in, for instance, an odunka of Gary has come down by this price, those are the real things. Telling us about the lights being on or still being on, it's like telling us that we should be lucky that we still have lights, which for me is not even fair, it's not even proper. But then, having regard to what we have also heard, on social media and government information about the unduly and heavily priced, contracts that the NDC government went into, which is what even the World Bank's representative in Ghana talked about. That it gives cause to worry because based on the kind of statistics that was rolled out by even the World Bank representative and other information, it's like about half or so of all the revenue generated by JRA is going into servicing those contracts. And then raises an issue as to how responsible our governments are. I'm talking about whoever brought the contract. Now they also come back, they tell us that, they tell us to be happy about the kind of thing. So, what is really happening in this country now is that if we're not careful, we all become cynical because we don't know who is saying what and what is the truth and where it lies. And therefore, speaking for myself, I'm sorry, but I have to confess, maybe I'm not so down the line. I'm what you call middle class. And what it means is that I can afford certain basics. But I live with people. I live with parents. I have relatives. I have all manner of people who are down there and they face these things on a daily basis. And somehow, some of their problems, they come into my pocket. And so, let's hope that things improve. But speaking for myself, telling me that I should be happy that I still have life is not comforting enough. That's a brief commentary that I like to make on these issues of economics and how lucky Ghanaians are and so forth and so on.
All right. Let's now turn to page 16 and trust, transparency, cure for vigilantism. That's according to Dr. Sarkodie. Now, a peace and development lecturer with expertise in security at the University of Cape Coast, Dr. Patrick Sarkodie, has advocated for trust and transparency as the cure for vigilantism in the electoral process. While commending the Ghana Police Service for the measures adopted for last Tuesday's Asin North by-election, Dr. Sarkodie said the stakes for the 2024 general election were higher and required a lot more to keep the country's peace. And let me just tie in. President Lord's peaceful poll at Asin North. Now, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has stated that the peaceful and credible conduct of the Asin North by-election has strengthened the country's democratic credentials. In a statement issued by the presidency, the president therefore commended the Electoral Commission, the security services and the media for executing their mandates in ensuring a peaceful and credible election. He said, "We once held the Asin North seat and I'm confident that sooner rather than later, Asin North will be blue again." But especially as what I'm going to talk about bodes on the law, and you're a lawyer. You recall the president's comments before the election that, look, why vote for someone who is mired in a criminal case? Suggesting that if Quayson were to get elected, then the courts, he would have a rough day at the courts. Some have said that that was prejudicial, especially considering that the president, right before saying that, had said that, look, some have suggested that maybe I have a hand, tweaking, pulling strings at the judiciary to ensure that things go the way they are with James Jachikwason, but I have no hand in it. And then right after that, he said what he did. What are your reflections on these stories? And from the legal standpoint, was the president prejudicing the issue with his commentary?
From a legal standpoint, what the president said, in my view, is what I call is below the belt, completely below the belt. It's not for the president to make those statements. They are prejudicial only up to a point, and I will explain it. As a matter of law, when a matter is before a court for trial, it's not proper for anybody to comment and make judgmental statements. In other words, it's not proper for someone to comment in a way as to suggest that the case is going to go in a particular way, whatever happens. That is the point at which that matter or that comment becomes prejudicial, because the matter is sub judice. Sub judice in the sense that it is pending for trial and for determination. At the end of the day, our legal system has given only one person the power and authority to make pronouncements as to the conclusive nature of every matter, and that is the judge. But that's the first point. Having made a prejudicial statement, the next issue is whether there is a chance, there's a possibility, there's a likelihood that that prejudicial statement can affect the eventual outcome of the case. In jurisdictions, but even we have that in Ghana, in jurisdictions where trials of this nature are done by a jury, you know, almost every criminal matter is tried by a jury. The jury is, it consists of men and women who are in the community, who are ordinary men and women. And you all even know that when a jury is empaneled, they try to shield them from the public, from everything that goes on and so forth and so on. But modern day means of communication has grown to the point where it is practically impossible to shield a trial by jury or the jurors from social media. And therefore, when such issues have come up, there is a tendency to argue that those sentiments or those comments which are prejudicial may affect the minds of the jurors to the point where they will not be balanced enough to make a judgment of their own. That is tried by juries. That's where the likelihood of prejudice is very, very strong. But in Ghana, where trial of this nature is by a judge is presumed to be fortified sufficiently to be able to concentrate on the facts and the evidence that is before the court rather than any other comment that anybody makes on social media.
Right.
That's point number one. And point number two. The point number three is that, the argument that the president made that statement, which we all agree is prejudicial, would necessarily influence a judge is, with due respect, an insult to a judge. Because a judge has gone to, that's what we do to our judges in this country. And I don't believe we are being fair to our judges. Because we have bastardized our judges to the point where, like I said, we come back to the whole issue of cynicism. In other words, when a judge does something that goes in your favor, he's a hero. When a judge does something against you, he's a villain. It's not right. It's not proper. Sometimes I wish the judges themselves had a mouth to respond to some of these issues.
But let me ask you something. We've all had a reason at a point to bash the judges, from the number 12, I believe, and what emanated from there. Among other things, some judges seem to be taking goats and plantain and all of that. Of course, to be fair to the system, that is just a minute portion of them. But it's like the lizard when it defecates all white and then it puts that blob of black on top. That black spoils everything. So they say one bad nut spoils the soup. So that is the problem. And some people have challenges with the system when it is seen to be corruptible, so to speak. Is that not the bottom line when it comes to this issue?
Well, I partly agree with you, but I wouldn't accept it as enough justification for the way we have bastardized our judges. There are lawyers who are as crooked as anything. Even if you said that when lawyers die, they bury them with their face downwards, even though I never saw one. But it doesn't make me, unless you have had the opportunity of dealing with me one-on-one, I mean, to be like any of those people. You know, so these are perceptions. And we must be careful how we deal with perceptions. I mean, that's all that I'm trying to say. We're not judges. I mean, come on, we talk about judges. Judges talk about lawyers. At the bar, we know lawyers who are dishonest to the court. Why are we not talking about them?
Right.
We also know judges. Some of the clients, they talk to us. But please, there are so many of them who are above these politics and all these tax and so forth and so on. So that is the only request that I'm making, that women be alert. It's like the case of throwing what they call the dirty water with the baby. You know what I'm saying? The bath water with the baby. That's what I think we must do. Is that on the facts of this particular case, personally, I'm speaking for myself, I have no reason to believe that if the president even says jail Jachukwesin, the judge will be compelled to jail Jachukwesin if the evidence, because the law is about facts, that's allegation.
So I think, Lawyer Paintel, the point is made. You trust the legal system to do justice in this matter. I have to rush you a bit because we're running out of time. Just to wrap the conversation, so on page 16, Jachukwesin, democracy is about development. That is what he's saying. Quoting him, he says, I saw this position because of my deep commitment to Asin North and its developmental agenda. I cannot read the rest of it. But the YEA secures jobs for 84,000 youth in 6 months. And the Youth Employment Agency has provided employment opportunities for over 84,000 youth in various sectors of national life in the first half of the year. Officials said the agency also created some jobs for the youth under the innovative modules carved out to ensure that more Ghanaian youth got skills and employment. Sometimes I wish that all these figures that are bandied around, we would really see them in action and they wouldn't be so short term. The Daily Guide, 6 more, I mean, all these issues here we've already looked at, apart from Sankofa gold workers in police grips, and 6 more Papavi fighters jailed 26 years. That story is on page 3. And another group of 6 persons standing trial in connection with violent demonstrations in the Volta region and calling for the separation of the region from the rest of Ghana have been handed a total of 26 years in hard labor. That's the PRISM term that has been handed out to those people. And finally, the Business Finder newspaper. Reverse high interest rates. Now, Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Dr. Stephen Amwa, says the situation where governments borrow from the domestic market at a higher interest rate than the private sector must be reversed. He cited the example of interest rates of government securities such as treasury bills being higher than what investment instrument of commercial banks offer in the country. And he's been speaking in recent times to my colleague, Samuel Kojo-Brace. Any thoughts, quick thoughts on these matters? We have a minute.
I'll pick on the high interest rate, the way it rolls out in court. It turns out that we don't appear to have any law in this country that regulates interest rates as between borrowers and creditors. And what it is that we've got some unreasonably, I don't know how to call it, all kinds of interest. And sometimes, I mean, in the jurisdictions in which they make these policies and they come in, there is a cap on what people can be liable to in the event that they borrow. In Ghana here, if the two of us contract that I'm taking what we call a womosia from you at 62% a week for the next 5 years, and I default, the court will enforce it. And the only argument is that, yes, I agree to it. It should not be so. It shouldn't be so. We must have a clear policy. That's all my point I would say.
Mr. Paintel, we're grateful that you've taken the time to join us this morning. It's unfortunate I couldn't see you face to face, but I know you're well, and I wish you the best of the day, sir. And that is Kweku Paintel, a lawyer. He joined the conversation. Right before we veer into sports, 2 people celebrating their birthdays today. Baba Sego, my own good friend from the University of Ghana way back when. Happy birthday to you and your twin sister. You're one amazing person. God bless and keep you and grant you both long life doing his will. Now, this one is from Oshiera Bian Nyowa Penyin Dumping Pepe Sahene. And it says, the love of my life, the sugar in my cocoa, you have been a reliable power behind my success. You have been of immense support to me and have contributed hugely to my growth. I am eternally grateful. Thanks for being an awesome wife and caring mother to our children. Blessed birthday to you, my wife, Oheneyere Adelaide Bian Nyowa. So Adelaide, happy birthday to you from your husband, the Dompim, Pepesa Hene. And this segment brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening. Locate them here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi Kronoma here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's also Takrade Anaji State, Tama Community 22, Techiman Hanso and Esiama in Zama. You can reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of sports. Up next.
Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. Hello, I'm Gary Al Smith, and this is The Sport. Yesterday, Wednesday, while the country was in the throes of the Eid al-Adha celebration in Senyabreku, something special was being observed. 143 days ago, Christian Achu left this world. He died, and with him, the dreams of doing many things for humanity, including helping the needy. Now, he had a project he had envisioned in 2016, and that involved building a classroom block for Senyabreku, which is where he had his senior high school education. Yesterday, the project, now completed and on time, was handed over and open. I was there.
Classrooms, and we were kind of like back and forth with ideas, and we eventually came up with elements. So one's called light, fire, water. When you go around, you see at the top of each classroom they have a name, so it's just a bit of uniqueness that we add. The computer room, so this is something the children could only have dreamt of having before, so it really helped their development, stay in touch with 21st century and being able to access things online.
So again, how do you feel now that you are commissioning this today with your team?
Yeah, it's amazing. We've honoured the work that we started back in 2016 with Christian Atsu. So it's a phenomenal achievement considering these were the timelines we were working to if you'd still been with us. So I'm very proud of everyone involved and all of the people that donated as well to make this happen.
With your involvement in this, what has it meant for the community?
Yeah, I mean, you can see the smiles on the children's faces. They have new school uniforms. They have a beautiful school a beautiful surrounding to now learn in there, making them enthusiastic to want to learn. So it's going to make a huge difference because of the environment. It's so beautiful.
How will this project continue? But Father, in your own grace,
Father, we thank you in the name of Jesus. Now I agree. Lord.
Are you posting on anywhere about
once you mention Christian Atru's name, there's a bit of emotion to go with it. And maybe the circumstances of his death also has gotten us feeling this way. But the happy side of it is that his legacy, his project, special project that he added to this orphanage has come to fruition, and we are commissioning it today. And I can just thank God for his life, short though, and the fact that they now have this school with them. And I'm sure they're going to increase the intake of the school. And because he was into sports, as we all know, I believe there's going to find a way of connection between sports and education right here in this school. I'm sure the proprietor is already making plans to use that.
What, knowing this community, what does this add and mean for the community?
Well, there are quite a number of public and private schools in Senior Brooklyn. So at the coast is the town of Senior Brooklyn, and the next one is called Bozuki, and this is kind of in between. And so it's another educational facility that has been added, and I support as much as possible any additional facilities for quality education and for the children to be able to get the best out of education here. But I am particularly excited because of the sports connection. And Cheetah FC is just 5 minutes from here. They have their beautiful asphalt. In fact, that's why I met Christian Atru closely for the first time when he commissioned the Cheetah FC park. And so and he's also Christian Atru's godfather. So I am very excited about the connection between the football and the school. And I'm sure in about 2-3 years, great things are going to happen.
May he continue to rest in peace. To football, and the Black Meteors are in trouble, depending on who you ask. Of course, having played 2 games at the ongoing Under-23 Africa Cup of Nations, they have won one and lost another very, very badly. The match they lost was against Morocco. It ended 5-1. It doesn't even tell the full story of how poor the Meteors were. Ibrahim Tanko blamed fatigue for the result, but is confident that in their final group game against Guinea, they should be able to do the needful in order to advance to the next stage of the competition in Morocco.
Yeah, I mean, the bad performance of us, as I said earlier, I think we give them a lot of respect. And yeah, I also said it's not an excuse, but we have a day rest. They have the 2. You could see also from the game of Guinea against Congo how the scoreline was, because of Congo also have only 1 day rest. Yeah, but as I said, we still have a chance in this tournament. We still have the last game, so we are going to prepare for that. Yeah, the performance of the referees, I think I can't say much. We have the VAR who is supporting them. So all the decisions they take, I think, is okay. So I think they are doing very well. We now have also 2 days to rest, both teams. So we are going to make use of it and then try to win our next match. Well, both of us want to go to the next stage, so I think both teams are going to prepare very well to win the game. So yeah, I can only talk about my team. I don't know what the Guineas want, but definitely we want to win to go to the next stage.
So the Meteors, who at a point were top of their group, have slammed down, and absolutely, like I said, they need to beat Guinea. That match will be in a couple of days. That match will be tomorrow, that is. Right, so that's it for the local African football. Let's go to Europe, where Arsenal have made the announcement for their first summer signing. It's Kai Havertz. For £65 million, they have got the 24-year-old former Chelsea man. He is, they hope, the key to winning the title this season, after they came so close but were gazumped at the end by Manchester City. Arsenal now have their sights on other players, including Declan Rice. Arsenal getting Kai means that Chelsea continue to hemorrhage on players, and we wonder how and when they will start getting more talent to replace all they've lost. That's it for the sport here on Joy News. I'm Gary Al Smith. You can get more news on myjoyonline.com. Head over to the sports page. That's it for now. Stay with us on AM Show.
Welcome back on the AM show, and from here we go hard on those matters that are pertinent to all of us in Ghana. And I have quite the squad here to help us dilate on those matters. Ghana, for welcome aboard. This is the AM show. In case you just stumbled here, and this is the big stories we're getting into now. Now, joining us this morning, we have the Member of Parliament for Anyanso Utuom, Dr. Dixon Adom-Akukisi. For a moment, you know, these things roll off our tongues, but sometimes the wires just crisscross and you have to. So much you're thinking. Dr. Dixon Adom-Akukisi is Member of Parliament for Anyanso Utuom. But there's an interesting figure in the studio this morning. If you remember former Zaire, Mobutu Sese Seko has joined us. But is he even supposed to be alive? Anyway, the Member of Parliament for South Dine, Roxanne Nelson Dafeamekpor, has decided to give us a Mobutu Sese Seko look. And two people saw him this morning. I asked my producer, is that Mobutu Sese Seko? And another person also asked. So, Mobutu, Roxanne Nelson Dafeamekpor. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, my brother. Morning. And Doc, good morning. Yeah. Good morning to you.
The look, though, what inspired this look?
Well, after the hard work, you have to take back seats, savor the victory, and then move on again. So if you see me looking this way this morning, it's because of the hard work we put in that paid off.
Okay. So this is your victory attire?
Yes, for the entire NDC and the entire citizens of us.
When you say for the entire NDC, are you referring to the outfit or the victory?
The victory.
The victory. Yes. Okay.
My chairman, my general secretary, my communication officer, the entire national executives, leadership in parliament, constituency executives, regional executives, members of parliament, party styles, young, old, who poured into us enough to help us work so we retain the seat. Gratitude to all of them.
We'll get into Asen North
and good
shortly.
morning to my constituency.
I was about to offer both of you that opportunity, so you can go ahead.
Yes. Peki Palik Pervet Tongo. Good morning to you and my branch executives, my constituency executives in Southern NDC.
All right. Let's come to you, Anyanso Utuom. Okay, so let me switch back to English. Let me move from the Potokasa. What's happening in Anyanso Utuom? I always want, every time you members of parliament, and I'll come back to you for that, when you come here, I want to know between the last time and now what have you been doing? It's also a way of letting your constituents know that this is what I have been up to. So over to you.
Well, let me thank you for the opportunity to be here, especially after a nice holiday. So once again, Barak Salah, or how do we say it? Yeah.
Did you get some of the Salah meat? Because you look very fresh. You're looking good.
I have some meat in
Roxanne, you've not told him. Isn't he looking good?
We discussed that outside. Here and I, we are close.
If I called him King Jaffa from coming to America when I saw him.
Oh, that's another.
You recall, yes.
So unfortunately, I woke up this morning to a knockdown death around Sotom. So that's how my morning started.
Condolences.
So
on the highway, on the
it's not really a highway. This is just a normal road. Trotro driver hits a woman, and unfortunately, so it brings the question of road traffic accidents in my constituency, and in fact, I'm deeply troubled by the Pokwasi Awoshi main road. We've had incidents, and in fact, students who are knocked down going to Odogono Senior High School. Just about 3 weeks ago, we had one similar incident, and the child was rushed to South, which is Akawe. So it's deeply worrying, and I think, per what I understand, Urban Roads has told me that we need about 5 footbridges on that road, and I'm hoping that at some point in time, funds will be made available.
5 of them?
Yes.
That's quite a number.
Stretch. Yeah.
And the other thing we should pray for, that when they are put up, people actually use them.
That is another troubling thing. But I think, especially with the students, I'm concerned largely about the young ones. Yeah. And I think they usually adapt very well to, using the...
Once there is enforceability as well, people there too.
So those are some of the few things that are worrying. And I think beyond that, I mean, my municipal assembly is doing very well. We could do better, but I think we're doing very well. And I would commend my municipal chief executive, Bashiru Mohammed. He's very dedicated and committed to making sure that whatever resources he has, he's putting it to use.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask, are the roads getting to see any facelifts? There are some difficult roads in your community, especially Antieku. I keep going back.
Yes. I mean, in fact,
any action?
There are videos.
And let me just say this. In fact, he really shouldn't be doing that. The MPs really shouldn't be doing that. Yeah. But they do them. Who is the DC in your community? Or
we have an MC.
An MC.
Yes, Honorable.
Because they actually are the agents of this. It's not your role.
It's true, but it's become so difficult to be explaining it almost every time to the populace. But you're right about that. But I said, earlier on that he's very committed. And so far, one key thing is that I think as we fix the roads leading up to the municipal chief, the alternative roads, we'll do a main bridge for Antieku, to curb the flooding on the roads when it rains, and it's deeply concerning because, in fact, I must admit, there's a road right in front of my private hospital that I run, so it's not something that I take lightly. Everybody, I know I have enough insults in the trotros and taxis, every time they drive by, and I've escalated it to the highest level, including.
And that's why when you, the MPs, come here, I also try to deflect some because I know the pressure is massive, even for things you are not supposed to be doing. You are lawmakers. You are not agents of development. You can lobby in Parliament, but you are not.
I see the key thing again is that the supporting institutions for our work.
They fail us.
That is a problem.
Yeah.
The supporting institutions. I mean, just recently, some of the exposures. People who are on support for feeding and allowances in other countries will not be worrying their MPs because there's a governmental program that helps people with rental issues and all these things that people come to us for. And the other thing too is that unfortunately, I think that if you have an A student who doesn't get a good school and you come to me, I understand. But sometimes now people are abusing the opportunity. Even very poorly performing students, their parents would come to you seeking for favors that should be for people who really, really, really need it. So these are some of the challenges. And I remember Ken saying that even in protocol, there's now protocol.
Which Ken?
No, Ken, presidential aspirant. He says that even in protocol, there's protocol now because everybody seems to want protocol. But other than that, I think we made a commitment to serve the people.
Right.
And whatever demands they put on us, in as much as it's huge, I think that's what we committed to. So we'll do our possible best.
Right.
And I think that over time, parliamentary work has to be modified, one, to meet the demands of the people, and then two, so that we can be very much well equipped and more independent.
All right. And we can also get into the conversation. I mean, this is common knowledge. We'll not spend time on it. I want us to quickly get into the very hard issues, but the bit about your common fund as well, and sometimes not getting paid. That also impedes your work in the constituencies. And with a large constituency like yours, how many, is it over 100,000?
We are
325,000. Look at
and
that.
I get the same common fund with him.
No.
Oh, but that one, I think we've discussed this before.
Yeah, general
We've discussed
population,
this before, that it cannot also be that. I mean, there are exigencies. If we want to say, when there's a bigger population, maybe, where would I say, Bantama?
Yes.
Or in the Volta region,
or Ashaiman.
The K2 area.
Or Ashaiman.
Or Ashaiman.
Yes.
Well, it's a discussion. But you legislators, do you ever bring it up?
Yes,
we bring up this matter?
We do. You see, he occupies a physically small area, but with a high population density.
Right.
I occupy a less populated area, but with
a
a
larger
large
space.
Yes.
So sometimes covering
so I
the
have
space
more
is
travel
more
time.
difficult.
Look, in Asen North, between say Agboja Kope and Subinsu, that's about 80 to 90 kilometers. You understand? And that's one constituency. In terms of physical distance, you have to travel in order to reach your people. So it's the same in say whole West and Southern. Southern, I think mine is about 60 kilometers from Ajebu to Apegbe. You know, so it's a bit difficult.
But the key
It's a bit
issues,
difficult.
For instance, the population that would worry about school fees would be far fewer.
I made the point. I made the point that in
that's-
terms of there are disparities. So there's been talk about trying to formulate a certain formula to making this distribution. But I have been advocating the Kenyan way.
Which is
that.
Let's not spend too much time on
Yes,
this.
yes,
but
yes.
Quickly,
Which is that MPs are now given funding to undertake fiscal projects.
Okay.
They went through this process.
So, for example, roads,
Yes,
hospitals.
Yes. They went through this process until in 2010 when they did the constitutional amendments and decided to do what they call the Constituency Development Fund.
Do you know how many Kenyan shillings they are getting?
They get equivalent of $1 million every year. They have a
Equivalent of $1 million.
They have a 5-year term. So they can build feeder roads, they build hospitals, they build schools, but you account for it. You're audited by the auditor, by their auditor general. And every year, once you are audited and your accounts are clean, you get reimbursed. As we speak, our DCs and MC have been given their common fund.
Right.
But he and I,
you've not got your common fund.
The fourth quarter last year, first quarter this year, hasn't come.
But sometimes I hear some get theirs, others don't get theirs.
No,
it's not
the
always
DCE.
uniform.
In terms of what goes to the assembly, they have received theirs.
Okay.
But he and I, we haven't received our
Would you
project
support such an idea? Let's assume we're doing the same thing. $1 million per member of parliament. That would be $275 million. Would you support something like that?
Yes and no.
To aid you as though you are not agents of development, as pseudo agents of
I
development.
really think that the institutions should work.
Okay.
You know, road ministry should be working very well and effective.
Right.
And road ministry is under resourced, hence some of the problems.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, I personally don't want to be overburdened with things that are not legislative.
Right.
In as much as all the other institutions can be working, because this will just embolden people, and then that same claim that MP...
And now it will actually make it
legal.
This is your role.
Yeah.
Would you then support maybe...
That's my concern.
I'll get your initial thing, but I just want to add this to what you're going to say. Would you then support maybe that, okay, so we should rather give the sum of money to the DCE or the MCE to execute the work?
I'm of the other opinion that some taxes should be localized. For instance, DMV. If all cars registered in my constituency pay tax for my constituency, I'm sure my roads will be much better.
All right.
If you understand what I mean.
All right.
Because the population of cars I have in my constituency, which will be tied to my constituency.
But you see, if you look at it nationally, some constituencies may also bleed. It may not work for them.
No, but I'm just saying,
those are the give and take situations.
I disagree that the work of the parliamentarian is only legislative. It's mainly legislative, but we have other duties to undertake. Scrutiny. Look, there's a portion of the highway between West Hills Mall and Wager Junction. You know, rainfall runoff has deposited a heap of sand in the middle of the highway. Department of Urban Roads is in this city, and for the past 1 month or so, there's a heap of sand sitting in the middle of the 3-lane highway, and it's still there.
Causing traffic.
Causing traffic. Others can run into it at dead of night and somersault and get involved in accidents, sometimes leading to fatality. So the institutions are disappointing us. I will agree that the MCs be given the resources. They are already given the resources, but they are not delivering because they don't go back to the people for votes.
Right. So
we do.
So
there's a better way of measuring the performance of an MP by the people than the DCE. The DCE owes allegiance to his president.
Okay. The appointing authority.
Yes.
Yeah.
You see, so it's difficult. So I think that the Kenyan model will be suitable.
Well, I mean,
they are also lawmakers,
but
they are making interventions, critical interventions in their counties and their regions and constituencies.
Yeah.
To help. If I have
or
that
else
kind
it will
of
be
money,
municipal, not county.
Yes. I to help if I have that money to be able to deliver on my mandate in South and build schools more.
You can prioritize better.
Yes, you can prioritize better.
Okay, so let's make tracks on this conversation. Sometimes when we come here, we just want to get some.
So please draw attention to that heap
happening.
of sand in the middle of the highway between West Hills Mall and Wager Junction. They should go and fetch
between West Hills Mall and Wager Junction. That also reminds me. You remember when Ebony Rains unfortunately lost her life? Similar. In fact, sometimes when you are driving, if you are not careful, regardless of where you are, you just see, sometimes in well-developed places, even in East Legon, you see that you are taking a curve. Someone has piled sand, stones, and everything. If you are not careful, you just, and imagine if it is night. And let's say, gentlemen, you have an emergency. I see it in different parts, even in residential
They
areas.
even dump the sand on the gutter.
How can this be happening?
When it rains, the gutter is sealed. They dump the building materials to seal
People are so reckless, and someone dies and no one will take the blame for this. We lost Ebony Rains. I mean, maybe she was more popular,
talented.
but how many more people are dying? I think recently I heard of a similar situation on the Kumasi stretch, but I think that one was an accident or something of the sort which created. So it's something we really have to look at. But let's talk Asin North. That election has happened. Bibibo, Bibiaba. It was coming. Yeah. Now it has come. There are so many angles to this that I want to run by both of you.
Okay.
James Jachikwason was put forward again by the NDC in spite of his court case.
Yeah.
And he won a resounding victory, over 57% of the vote. Now, prior to this, I want us to look at it from the legal dimension all the way down to the political happenings there. President Akufo-Addo, in his commentary with Charles Opoku, suggested, you know what, don't vote for someone who, I found it a bit unfortunate when he said, you know, and then he made mention of the fact that he had already said that I am in no way going to prejudice the legal, matters that he's going through. Some have suggested that I have a hand in something. I don't. But then immediately after that, he said, but don't vote for someone who will be saddled with court issues and blah, 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 suggesting that if you vote for this person, the courts may rule him out and you would have wasted your vote. I personally found that unfortunate. I don't know how both of you found it. But then we get to D-Day and the police service was in full force. What do you make of that? I heard you concerned about it, but honestly, Roxanne, I was not concerned about it. I felt it was only the Ghana Police Service trying to ensure that whatever may be on the ground, they can deal with it. What is your take on that as well? And what does this victory mean for the NDC and this loss mean for the MPP? In fact, you at a point predicted that it wasn't going to be that easy, that simple, that likely it would, and it has turned out that way. I'll start with you, Doc.
Well, let me first of all commend Kwesi for victory. There's no small election.
Right.
I mean, there's no small election, and I must commend him. It came to, he's been through a lot. And I can relate to him because of his diasporan experience. And I'm of the opinion.
You've had same as well.
I think that diasporans have a lot to offer this country. We're first Ghanaians, and we're still Ghanaians. And as I would say in many instances, we should welcome a lot more diasporans into Ghana so that they can add to the human capital of this country.
But a quick one, just because you've made mention of this, I'll not interrupt your flow again. On the back of some of these happenings, what has happened to Jachi Kwesi and all of that, do you think, you say we should welcome them, but with such things happening, how welcoming do you think that is for them?
The journey has some of these casualties. And this is, for me, it's just like the freedom of the African Americans. Some people died for the freedom. And I think that this sparks the debate and allows us to even talk more about this. Our vice president has trained outside and come back. Our president trained outside and came back. So I'm just giving us that overview that diasporans have a lot to offer and we should welcome them. Now, the other key thing is that, listen, no matter how we like it or not, this is an incumbent MP. This has never happened where you have a by-election of a certain, let me say, MP, member of parliament.
Right.
Most of the times it's a death that leads to, by-elections.
Or some incapacitation.
Or some severe health incapacitation. But so this was quite different in that regard, in the sense that he was an incumbent. He had what we all love in politics, and that is sympathy of the people, to ride with him into the elections for just the fact that, there was an issue, legality in the sense of his allegiance, either yes or no to Ghana alone. So I think that this makes it a very peculiar thing. And right off the bat, I know in many circles of the MPP, we knew that it will be tough. But
your party people were very confident. They said,
confidence,
especially on the back of some of the polls which suggested
this was a good sports show. Listen, this was a good sports show. Phobia or Kotoko will not go fighting with morale low. We all went, and in fact, I must say that this was a very beautiful. I saw Sidin Ketia and Ken Hagen. I saw some of the different party activists engaging others. And this is, at best, what I'm hoping that 2024, when we're doing this election, and this is how it should be. No fatalities, zero fighting, and then results come out. And as it is, I really think that our democracy is maturing. And I must commend all party members, the members of parliament that went there, rank and file from grassroots, all the way up. Chief of staff was there, the president was there, vice president, everybody.
This is one election that has got a lot of the high-flying figures coming.
All the CEOs.
Former president, current president.
Everybody,
in fact, on the day.
I didn't see. I'm just
for
saying.
him, we know his situation. But you would even realize that on the day, Parliament was literally, virtually empty.
Empty.
I think there were.
We had
was
10.
5?
We had 10 on our side, and I think.
Okay, as of the time I counted, there was only one from the NDC, about a handful from your end.
Yes.
You couldn't.
So it was
do
the war of the roses, in the sense that the two parties. But this was a good show of sportsmanship.
Right.
And I think that I must commend people who were non-violent in this whole.
How do you react to the president's comments? There are a lot of issues I want us to tackle, so I want us to.
I think
the president's comments. And what this means now that the MPP has lost, that seat again. And especially considering, let me just add, especially considering that if you look at the NDC's votes, previously, James Jachi Kwesi had a similar figure. but it's just that the increment was slight. In this instance, even in the strongholds of the MPP, the different polling stations where you would expect large margins, they were very low. But there was a high voter turnout. So what are the implications of that?
I have questioned where we had marked as strongholds because, in fact, strongholds come to Anyaso too. And then when you talk of strongholds, you see the gap. The gaps from 2020 elections where we categorize as strongholds in Asin North, honestly speaking, they don't meet the level that I would categorize as strongholds. In the sense that, you know...
So are you saying your party people got it wrong?
No, I'm just saying that personally, if I was going to categorize some of the polling stations that they said were strongholds, I don't think they'll fly as strongholds for me. Because, you know, when NDC gets 295 and MPP gets 260, that is not... Or the reverse. Those are not strongholds. Strongholds is when you have a very wide gap, about 452 to maybe 10 or 15. Then that is a stronghold. So I really think that personally, you know, Asin North does not have pockets of stronghold, you know, within the MPP.
The comments of
the president. And I think that the president, to a large extent, I mean, you know, we've been hoping in as much as possible that, you know, he always limits, you know, some of these, you know, commentary surrounding cases that are in court. And I think he's done well over the past several years. But once in a while, you know, these things do happen. And I think that looking at the scenario and the grounds under which he spoke these things, he was just cautioning the voters that, listen, if you're looking at the long-term growth of your constituency, consider somebody with fewer, quote-unquote, court hurdles.
Issues to deal with. Someone suggested that he shouldn't be the one even doing such things.
Well,
if someone is to do that, it should be people much lower down the pecking order who can say this and go scot-free. But when you, the head of the executive, says it, and the judiciary, another arm of government, the third arm of government is dealing with it, then it creates that, you know,
the judiciary is very independent. Very independent,
but you know it's not always reality. It's also about perception. It's also about
I agree with you on the perception bit, but you know, after what happened with Leveau, it's quite clear that the judiciary does not necessarily listen to the executive. They've dished out a ruling that is counter to the executive just quite recent. So I mean, I think that the argument that the judiciary will succumb to any influence of the president is and especially now that we have a new Chief Justice whose reputation she wouldn't start off with, you know, something that would drop her reputation at all. She's a very competent, powerful, independent thinker, and she demonstrated that.
Let me come to Roxanne on this now. Mr. President also mentioned that what befell Adamu Dramani Sakande is what has befallen James Jachi Kwesi. That is what he suggested. Share your thoughts on that. So everything Asin North, from the police presence, which you felt uncomfortable about, which I did not agree with you on, and all of that. What is your take?
First of all, I disagree with Doc when he says that democracy is maturing. Not, it's deteriorating.
I felt honestly that on the back of the police presence and the free voting and everything.
You asked the question, so let me respond. Asin North is a district that has a police command with men already manning the security situation in Asin North. Asin North is in the central region with a regional police command. So the policemen in Asin North and the central region alone are capable of handling the matters that we saw.
There's never enough security.
Please let him
carry on.
He didn't heckle
I
you.
know. I'm just saying.
He didn't heckle you.
You don't marshal nearly 3,000 men in uniform to one district.
Was that a problem, though?
See,
I'm giving you the opportunity, but I'm just going to premise it. Was that a problem based on what we saw in Ayawaso West Wuogon? You see that maybe some would say we did not have enough men on the ground to secure the place. In this instance, they have done it, and
The
we still
people
have a
who
problem.
created the problem in Nayawaso were not policemen. They were national security operatives. You heard the commission, the testimonies.
Right.
I speak of the Ghana Police Service. And you marshal over 300 vehicles and motorbikes. Motorbikes alone were over 100 with men on them. Now, you pretend that you are organizing a health screening exercise.
Pretend?
Pretend. It's pretentious. And I say this. On Sunday, at Nyamebetre, a farming community, cocoa farmers, I got there by 5 to work. Policemen came when the people were going to the farm, supposedly to conduct health screening.
Policemen?
Yes.
To do health screening?
To do health screening, I tell you. Please, 2 vehicles. They are come to mount.
Do you have any evidence? Do you have anything to corroborate?
I interacted with them. They set up to do health screening for the people.
You mean police hospital send people?
I don't know whether it's police. I'm just making a point. Are you not aware that the police conducted health screening in Asinof?
No, what I know.
No, are you not aware?
I think I heard it was part of
it's certainly
number of
I'm
activities
telling you,
they were going
I want to tell you.
But that might be a community engagement profiling for the police.
That is not community
Dafeamekpor,
engagement.
make your point.
You came to set up to do health screening. You didn't even inform the people. So the people were not aware. So they had gone to the farm. So just to demonstrate waste of resources. But I'm saying that you don't do that supposedly to support the government in power.
No.
That is what happened. Go and check whether the police are in a scene of conducting health screening today.
But what I find curious is that if they did conduct the health screening on the day and the voting public were involved, then it also
not on the day. It
wasn't
happen,
on the day.
It didn't happen on Tuesday.
Okay. Fine.
I speak of the conduct of the police days before the election on Tuesday.
All right.
Were they offering protection to people conducting health screening? That is also possible.
No, it was the police itself that was conducting the health screening, cross-check.
Really?
Yes.
And the only police service that handles health matters is police hospitals.
I know.
So are you saying that doctors and nurses from police hospital went to assist?
I don't know.
Since we don't have all the facts, there are things we don't know, and there are things he doesn't know as well. No, I'm saying when I say facts, I mean you don't know all the underlying currents about.
I know I spoke with the policemen.
Listen, I know a voluntary group that went to conduct health screening.
From where?
And this
voluntary group from where?
A health screening voluntary group from within the MPP.
Within the MPP.
Within the MPP. No. Let me just say
in Asin North.
In Asin North.
But these people were hired as police officers, right?
Yes.
So that's why
I want the police to issue a statement.
One bit.
Hold on. I want the police to issue a disclaimer that they did not conduct health screening in Asinof a day or 2 or 3 before Tuesday.
Okay. So
and they were not telling the people that they were sent by the president to check their health.
But what's wrong with that?
There is everything wrong about it.
But I don't think that police...
There's everything wrong about this approach.
So you're saying they were telling the people that they had been sent by the president?
Yes.
Did they say that in your presence?
Not in my presence.
You were with those
Not
police,
when I was in
How many
Nyamibetre.
police officers were they?
The team that came to Nyamibetre were about 8. They came in 2 vehicles.
Did any of them say any such thing in your presence that Mr. President has sent us?
That is one village.
Did any of them say that?
Not in my presence. But the people told us.
And they had medical gadgets and everything.
Yes. They set up.
So what kind of health screening did they conduct?
They were checking pressure, those normal health screening things. I am not saying that it is a wrong thing to do. I am saying that the timing and even the location.
And
you don't do that in Accra. You don't do that in my constituency in Southern. You go and do that in Asinof.
I think if it is so,
days, that is the point.
So basically, you are suggesting some conflict of interest.
Exactly.
No. The other thing too is that if that is the case, it could be a police way of engaging the constituency to let them have a very simple, enjoyable.
But I do agree. You know? I do agree that yes, I mean health screening. There's no too exceptional time for a health screening, but
the timing.
if you're going to have a by-election and right before that, assuming what he's saying is correct, that they went there saying the president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has sent us to come and conduct a house meeting. I take issue with that because then, in a way, I mean, it's almost as though you were saying, okay, the president he cares for you, he's sending us to do this in anticipation of an election in which an NPP member is contending. That is assuming that's what you just said. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. You give me, I take.
So let me deal with the other matters.
All right.
And the fact that the Electoral Commission also have issues with the conduct of some of their senior officers. So bad.
Which ones?
Returning officers. Practically telling voters to vote in a certain way. It ought not to be so.
Returning officers.
Yes.
Telling voters how to vote.
It happened.
Do you have evidence? You see, when you make mention of these things, it is a bit problematic.
It is not problematic. Let me add this
from where I sit. I can't just let you say these things.
You want to see recording, you want to see pictures.
Exactly.
No, pictures will not.
Video, maybe audio.
There's a video of an Electoral Commission officer who had been given money, 5,000. The police had to retrieve the money from him immediately.
Given money by whom?
If we go into the nitty-gritties, there's
it's
so
not
much.
About the nitty-gritty.
There's so much on your side that I've muted on.
No, you see,
you understand?
So you
there were counter accusations of
deal with the matter.
Influence peddling.
Deal with the matter. This video. I wasn't there, but
verifiable,
verifiable video. A policeman.
All right, so this is what I'm going to do
from an Electoral Commission officer.
I'm going to ask you, when this is done, to send me that.
I'll send you. I'll send that video
so that
to
we
you.
can analyze it for.
You will analyze. It was done by the police, not the NDC people retrieving the money.
Overall, I think the Electoral Commission.
Overall, let me tell you, even the collation center were prevented from entering. It took a few officers.
You were prevented from entering the collation
I was there.
center. By whom?
By policemen.
Just you or the MPP?
Did they know?
I don't know about the MPP. I saw Carlos crying there. They won't allow me to enter.
There were a few people who were agents.
I saw Carlos
Is he still deputy, one of the deputies?
Carlos He's not chairman of trade.
Okay,
my
chairman
colleague.
of trade.
He was there. They won't allow me, but he was there.
He was assigned to.
He was assigned.
So within the NDC,
were you assigned?
Within the NDC, somebody was assigned for the collation.
Roxanne, had you been assigned?
Was he assigned?
He was assigned.
Had you been assigned to be there?
I wasn't assigned.
So, you know.
But I could have been there as an observer. Other MPs were permitted.
Assigned.
So no, they were not assigned.
And clearance.
So I just want to demonstrate
whether all those MPP members had been
let me demonstrate that the people of Asinov spoke.
Agreed.
Vehemently in support of Jachi. But let's speak to the problems that we encountered.
But there are many positives. So I think we should commend.
Please wrap on that point. I want us.
When you deploy nearly half of MC7 in the southern Ghana to Asinov, do you know how many DCs came?
To do what?
I am asking you.
No, besides coming to campaign and making sure that they are observing the process.
They should leave their post.
I think
that's an abuse of incumbency. That's the point I'm making.
No, that is their area.
That's not their area.
But that is the Inspector General of Police.
No, I am
marshalling his service to ensure that
I've left the issue
goes
of
well.
The police. I speak of DCs.
They are also responsible for security, which you know.
I see.
Oh, in your constituency.
Are they head of DISEC?
No. They are responsible.
I didn't see my DCE though. But the number of DCEs.
Oh.
So it is the abuse that I speak of.
So if
the terrain was not fair at all. Speak to any NDC.
So basically, there was dereliction of duty.
Not dereliction of duty.
DCs, by leaving post to come there
within Central Region.
DCs came as far as from the north.
Oh,
I saw DCs that serve in the north.
Can you name
current?
Current.
Doc, let me do this. Can you name any districts in the northern region where any of these DCs could have come from.
I saw them. They should deny.
But I think we should keep in mind that the excitement for campaigning was quite huge on both sides. You know.
Okay,
so I don't see anything
all of
wrong.
this happened.
I don't have a problem seeing my colleague MPs.
Very quickly.
From the whole country come.
Very quickly.
The MPs, we are political.
Please let me moderate this.
Yeah, so
there was also that very worrying issue of money.
Yes.
We saw Chairman Wontumi and taking money out, and we're told.
He likes to show off.
No, it's just a matter of like to.
You
I'm saying it was an
conclude.
MPP
You
platform.
haven't allowed me to conclude.
It's an MPP platform, by the way, but I'll come back to you so you do that. But what message it conveys? I mean, we spoke to different members of the MPP and we captured other things and that one, it is TNT we're giving. Is that what we want in our democracy? And there were accusations that your side also did a few things. In fact, some people claimed there's this person who was spoken to who said the NDC had given him 100 cedis and the MPP had given him 200 cedis.
Really?
You know, so the accusations cut across. What are we doing to our democracy? Quick thoughts on that, a minute each, and then you can wrap up on what you were saying. 1 minute.
I think that the monetary influence in politics, whether we like it or not, to a large extent, is going to be part of us, for forever.
You seem to be repeating what Kufuor said. It's been with us since the days of Adam.
No, I mean, listen, we need to be as real as possible. Granted that the level at which maybe we're going is not sustainable, which is what is worrying. But I think that he knows that on any day, on any election day, people would approach you and ask for TNT. And these are things that are unfortunately unavoidable in our Ghanaian politics. If you're in the UK, hardly would a voting person come to the councilman or the member of parliament seeking for a ticket to go and vote. Hardly. But then, what they do is they provide buses and they bus elderly people. And this happens, this is the going out to vote processes. And I think that, and I hope that sometime, hopefully, some of these things will change. But the beautiful thing is that, as you can see per the results, people necessarily did not vote because of these funds that were provided.
And let me just mention, I think it was the presidential, the flag bearership contest of the NDC. I think some people also made mention there that a promise had been made them that their TNT would be paid.
Ghana.
John Mahama.
40.
So it's something that we are doing.
He was livid.
It's something we are doing. Your 1 minute on that, and then you can talk about it.
You are killing my time. 1 minute is too small.
No,
now,
I said on this substantive issue. So you can wrap and then do the 1 minute.
So I man a polling station that has 282 voters on the roll. NDC could have given me money to give to all those people. We walked. We did what we call prompting. We went from door to door.
The same on the outside.
So you can defend your position. But NDC didn't give me money to give to 282 voters.
What position did I express?
You understand? So the claim that NDC gave money, I don't know. But the NDC that detailed me to go work in a polling station, they assigned me and delivered the votes. I walked. Even feeding, the people cooked for us because we slept there overnight and worked with them. So I don't know about money. What I know is that we worked hard.
Dafeamekpor,
and got the votes.
let's face it. If your side, the way our politics is played, if his side distributed money, he wouldn't come here and own up to it. If your side distributes money, you will not come here and own up.
You have been asking for evidence. You have been asking for evidence.
No, but
I am saying that
unless you are caught in the act, no one owns up to anything.
I am saying that NDC assigned me to a polling station. Mm-hmm. They didn't give me money. They asked me to go and work.
Okay, so
deliver the
point made. So
can
we make tracks?
Yes. I just wanted to make one key point. He's positing that I said that we were giving money to distribute, but that's not what I said here.
No, you mentioned TNT.
I said
you
that
want to
people approach you, and I'll be surprised if his caliber as a member of parliament, somebody approaches him over there that Honorable Matwewi Kofi Mambibi Kaka, I don't know if the Dafeamekpor will say no to it.
Okay, all right.
I will find it difficult.
I was in a very rural polling station. So it was walking distance.
All right, point made. Yes. For Yao, you say, I love this morning show. Negative or positive, I'll often read it. You know me, even if it's negative, I'll read it out as well. So for Yao, we love you too. Why? Keep watching.
And let me say,
two crucial
gratitude
issues
to our flag bearer. His presence in Asin North was of tremendous effect.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Two quick points still on Asin North and generally, then we can move on to other issues. Gentlemen, I'm trying to ration the time. I want us to talk about the IPPs. I want us to talk about other pertinent matters. So let's make time for that. Sami Jemfi, the Director of Communications, I don't know whether I've got his title.
We call it National Communications Officer.
National Communications Officer, called Charles Opoku at a point, if memory serves, a political prostitute. In fact, there was the allegation that he had wanted to contest on the ticket of the NDC, and he had been rejected, and he went to the MPP. What do you make of that, Roxanne? And then for both of you, and you as well, and then for both of you, Fitch, because we are talking elections, Fitch has come out with that latest report that suggests, and they wouldn't be the first, the EIU came out with something similar. I don't know whether earlier this year. And now Fitch is coming out with this report, basically saying that the NDC is going to win election 2024. And part of it is hinged on the state of the economy and all the other hurdles that government has to deal with. Just today, I was reading in one of the papers, the president talking about the fact that so the economy has grown by 4.2% in the first quarter. I've listened to Dr. Stephen Amwa on whether you can turn this ship around. What do you make of these two scenarios very quickly? In fact, let me start with Dixon this time.
Okay. Well, we know how rating agencies work in the sense that they have in-country support systems to gather intel. We also know how the polls recently have been, and that's another topic for another day. Our polling systems are off. In fact, some of the polls that came out for Asin North are, a gazillion miles away from what happened in reality. When people were saying that things are going to be tight. But I think that these commentaries in terms of projections can be made, and it all depends on the next foreseeable days. In politics, even 3 weeks can make a tremendous impact or change. And even the day of election, anything can happen. So I would be very cautious in looking at their projections and pronouncements.
But do you know why it's relevant? Because these are the same projections that you've fallen on in the past, written on, and said, oh, even they are saying we're going to win. In the past, when it's favored your party,
listen,
they
let me cite.
Said, yes, it is the truth.
Let me cite you on record that I was placed fourth when projections were put out
in your constituency.
Primaries. Yes, I was going to be the fourth person, and it turned out to be very wrong. So I'm a victim.
But which poll was this? Was this one of these international or a local?
No, local. But I'm just saying. I'm a victim of poor polling or poor projections or poor analysis, and it could have gone against me because people had heard that I'll turn out to be the fourth person in the election. So I'm very skeptical about these things. Now, one other key thing is that,
and if we may point out, Benefson,
what
he posited, and people went after him on the day because
it is quite
his projections turned out very badly, very wrong.
It's quite clear that the metrics that he's using need to be looked at, and I have nothing against Benefson. I have all the respect for him. He's an elderly.
He's my own uncle. I call him uncle.
Yeah. But his metrics are out of the park now. So the key thing is that, one, this can energize the ruling party or government to put some appropriate steps in place to turn things around. And it can go positive in the sense that presidency, cabinet will sit down and say, hey, let's pull these plugs, let's re-engineer some of these things, and then let's see how it goes.
Okay.
And I think that many people have said a number of things that if we do, can turn things around.
All right.
We'll wait and see.
How do you react to the political prostitution as alleged by Sammy Gyamfi against Charles Opoku?
Well,
were you aware that he had supposedly tried to...
Let me put on record that...
In the midst of the Jachikwesin thing, maybe he was trying to put himself in there.
The venom that the NDC used in Asin North, some of them are so bad I can't say here. And I think that it's unfortunate that, even, very respectable men within the NDC used such venom, and I'm not surprised by Sammy Gyamfi's comment, though it's in bad taste. I think that it is very bad to use such words on, a candidate.
Okay.
To tell a candidate that he's a political prostitute is very, very, very bad. And I can assure the people of Asin that I think this man was true and true blue, and it's unfortunate that he's lost the election.
All right, points made. Roxanne.
Yes, first of all, the phrase political prostitute is a political language. It's a political language.
Prostitute in any context is not positive.
I'm saying it's political language.
So what does it mean? Let me ask you then, what does it mean?
It means somebody who flip-flops between parties.
Is that the character of Charles Opoku? Do you know that?
Well, that is Sammy's view. That's Sammy's view. And I won't take, he could have said that Charles Opoku oscillates between parties. He could have described him that way. It's a matter
oscillate might have been an okay word.
Good. So it's a matter of language. And sometimes...
So semantics.
Semantics. He's simply saying that Charles was with us.
And he's left.
Wanted some things. Didn't get the opportunity.
The admission is that Charles Opoku was once with the NDC.
Yes. It's a fact on the ground.
Okay.
No.
What exactly was he?
But you're the same people claiming that he doesn't vote there. So I'm even wondering how he can be with you.
No, you are wrong. You don't equate membership of the NDC to voter registration.
No, I'm just saying.
You understand? I could be a member of the NDC actively
in Western region.
In Western region, in Central region.
Okay.
You understand?
Point made. In what capacity? Was he just a registered member, or what did he play? In the NDC?
I think he was with the NDC. Very active.
In spirit?
Not in spirit.
Doc, please.
Those facts, these are matters on the ground.
Wait, you're a lawyer saying facts. So facts means that, he was a polling station, branch executive?
No.
So can you do me a favor and
I can get those details for you later.
So, yeah.
But the information on the ground is that he was very active within the party in the Central region.
Charles Opoku.
Yes. He's very.
So at what point did he switch to the NDC?
I've been struggling to ascertain. That at what point did
he it's not factual then?
Because you see, during the last election, during the 2020 general election, I'm told he wasn't with the NPP.
Okay.
Even just
as early as 3 years ago,
he wasn't with the NPP.
Right.
You understand? And
maybe he was a civil servant,
perhaps,
and worked with both parties.
Yes. So
that one isn't a flip flop.
So it is not wrong for me to say that he was associated with us.
And so you feel the tag political prostitute is apt. Do you feel?
I think politically speaking, it's apt. It's a matter of language.
Because if you're a civil servant
now, someday they
but Sammy wants to get under his hide. That's why you use languages like that. That you must learn how to stay put. You must learn how to remain loyal to ideologies.
So you admit it was political propaganda?
It's not propaganda. This is not propaganda.
It is
This is labeling a person who oscillates, who is not stable.
All right. So point made there.
Yes.
Fitch.
Yes. These studies are good. If they don't favor you, it helps you to adjust and work harder. If they favor you, it helps you to consolidate and keep working harder. So I don't have a problem with them. But I don't think that as a party we want to rely on it. We want to keep our focus on the ground because the work is on the ground.
All right. Let's now talk about power situation. These are tricky times.
Yes.
The IPPs, we owe them almost to the tune of $1.5 billion. And even how much are we getting from the IMF? You get it. And they are baying for blood, so to speak, in quotation marks. They are at our jugular.
Semantics.
Yes, they are at our throats right now saying, pay up.
They want to
pay at least about 30%, which is the equivalent of 420 to 450 million. Or we down our tools. Now, they are providing about 60 to 70% of the power generation that we have. Dumso is just a few years ago. Trust me, I don't want to. In fact, in recent times, I have faced a few things, and it's pockets of places. The other day, we had your governance and security spokesperson come here. He cast doubt on it. We activated the full lines. I'm sure he would have wanted to run away. It's not a joke. Now, having experienced what we did, and now the timeline they are giving us, in fact, they say the 1st of July. Yesterday, there was one of our sources told us that the ECG had reached some sort of agreement with AXA and that likely with others. But this is just hearsay for now. What do you make of that situation and what's the way forward, gentlemen?
You know, I really think that the CEO of ECG was very proactive. If you look at the last...
Dubik Mohammed.
Yes. Right. Look at the last about 12 weeks when he went after institutions that owed ECG and how he was able to, show up a lot of, monies, though not substantial compared to what ECG is required to pay. I think, he's on a very good course. And I really think that this would even encourage him to do more and make sure that institutions in this country that owe ECG will make the necessary payment and allow for them to remit to these IPPs. Now, I must say that the energy industry is a heavy one. And these numbers, though very big, within the energy industry is still manageable. And I would hope that through the leadership of the finance ministry, wherever they can get these revenues.
That's a big question, where they can get this revenue from. And don't you think it is irresponsible on the back of Dumso, what it did to us? Isn't it irresponsible for us to be getting close to this point? I mean, where we've not managed the situation with the IPPs and now we are inching close to such a situation.
I mean, as we see,
is it not irresponsible?
When we went to Tamale, many, just GES, schools owed ECG.
It's case of the Public Accounts Committee.
And if we just look at Ghana Education Service, I'm talking about the likes of KNUST, Legon, their indebtedness to ECG, you'd be marveled. And this is just education. Now, when we go into health,
I'm fully aware.
I can only imagine.
There are some of them.
I can only imagine how much Kolebu owes.
Hospitals. There are hospitals that got disconnected, and they say that, look, we've never paid on our own. It's through the finance ministry and this system and that we don't pay. We don't pay with IGF. And so it's a convoluted mess, but it's a mess that must be dealt with. That one cannot take away from the fact that
I think that
this could be a general... Imagine 60 to 70% if they take it away. Let's say even if 30% is taken away. Do you know what the consequences would be?
Very huge.
For business, for individuals.
Cold stores, barbering shops, hairdressing salons, I mean, name it, restaurants, hotels. I understand. And that's why we never, ever want to go back to Dumso. And I think Napo, or if I shall say Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, he's a maestro, and he'll do whatever it takes. He's a Ronaldo for electricity at the moment.
I remember in recent times he said that there would be no Dumso.
He'll make it happen.
Roxanne, your take on the IPP situation?
Yes, the incessant complaint by government that we signed expensive IPPs, neither here nor there. But they have signed about...
You mean the PPAs, the purchase power agreements?
They have signed about 3 more, in addition to what they came to, and they are signing more. So,
but that's also because now we no longer have, I think about 2 years ago, we've not had excess capacity that we used to talk about. Now we are borderline. In fact, so we need more capacity. So they will have to sign more.
Exactly. So why complain about those that we came to meet? Look, they claim that they have extended rural electrification from about 89% to about...
It's not that we claim, it's been done.
Okay. Yeah. So if we are increasing the rural electrification,
obviously
you need power.
Your power needs will increase.
If you claim you are establishing one district, one factory, You need power to power. Why shouldn't I?
You've seen the factories.
Look, hold on. Joy has a documentary
170
regarding factories that are grown with bush, but are sitting on paper as one district, one factory.
So you
site.
mean the sugar factory or what? I mean,
there may be a couple that indeed you have done.
The sugar factory.
But a lot of them are at various stages of completion. So
Doctor,
it's done. It's been done. I am saying that if you claim the man is heckling me.
I'm not heckling you. I'm sorry.
If you claim that you want to build a factory in every district, including Southdown, you need power to power it.
Right.
So they should get their narratives right. I am saying that, like you said, where we are, the government has mismanaged the energy sector and running us into a crisis if we are not careful. So I'm not surprised that the IPPs are demanding blood. And indeed, they have huge operational
They actually say that to stay afloat, keep their heads above water.
They need this payment.
They need those sums of
because you
money.
see, they
if you listen to Mr.
If you look at their books, the nature of their operations, the operations are very, very expensive.
They are cost intensive.
Very, very, very high costly intensive. So they need these monies to be able to offset those to run. No, I'm sure they must rack up some debt. So they'll have to pay off.
But realistically, looking at where we are, even the first tranche of the IMF deal, how much did we get? 600 million. The next one, we are getting around 300 million or so, or another. I mean, that is not even enough. What we are getting in an entire year is not enough to pay the entirety of that bill. How realistic is it?
But you heard the president say that when he said that he's capable of bringing the economy back on track, he stands by it. Stands by it. Meanwhile, the money we are getting, like we are discussing, it's a drop in the ocean. Honestly, we have a problem. And the economy they inherited in 2017, this ought not to be happening to us in 2023.
Really?
This should have been an economy that would have doubled by now if we had kept that trajectory. Don't talk of COVID, because COVID brought you a windfall. You wouldn't have gotten.
I haven't even opened my mouth.
No, but I can anticipate what you want to say.
You can hear me say COVID.
Yes, I can anticipate.
Wow.
You see, COVID brought you money that you would ordinarily wouldn't have gotten. So here is the deal. You have a problem, but the problem also brought you free money.
There's no free money.
So how did you expend it?
There's no free money.
So let me ask you, gentlemen. I mean, let's put aside the blue, white, and red.
Correct.
And the green, black, white, and red. Let's set that aside. We are Ghanaians.
Yeah. First and foremost.
If this thing goes south, I will not be happy, because someday you wake up, you can't iron your clothes. You come, you are likely
I'll be doing only Batakari.
Late. I wish I could do that all the time. I can't. Unless it's a Friday. You see, the inconvenience. I remember back then, it was very, very, very inconvenient.
Yeah, using charcoal for ironing.
And maybe you may even get to a place, because they are running extra cost to run a generator. So the cost of the thing you would buy has shot up, all kinds of things.
And those who stole generators.
How do we prevent this? What do you think is a plausible way of preventing?
Efficient management. Efficient management.
Just 1 minute each. 1 minute.
Efficient management, not doing politics with management and administration of these matters. Very candid, before right, good policies. That's what will take us up.
And I think that institutions should pay up. And we need to run away from the insulation where, governmental institutions, and I always say this.
Finance ministry, they cut them off.
Institutions.
Right? Right?
It reminds me of the police station that needs to be cut off.
Because there was a point when, I think last year or this year, the finance ministry
I really think
let me add this. Every year, when we do the budgetary considerations, the budgets that the institutions bring include payment of electricity bills for which we approve. So I don't know why year in, year out we approve budget for these institutions to pay their bills, and yet it doesn't get paid.
All right. So let's look at two major matters I want us to look at. The last one is a bit light, but it's also of great consequence from our social angling. But the first one, you see, I look at some of the projects and the fact that we have a repetitive cycle, a vicious cycle of abandoned projects. I'm sure if we quantified, people of Ghana, if we quantified how much we've lost in terms of projects that have started and stalled, roads that have started and not been completed. There are some roads we've been constructing them since 1992. Till today, you hear that. If we could quantify the sums of money, I'm sure we would all be in shock. So I'm looking now at the National Cathedral project and that barren hole over there. It moved from $100 million to over $400 million. Now nothing.
Open cast mine.
You look at Agenda 111. Professor Bika has said this is a recipe for disaster. You will not finish. You will not get anywhere. When you look at all of these projects springing up, and again, we are on a leash when it comes to spending. What do you see? What should we be doing to avert more wastage?
Well, there's one key thing in finance, which is what we call sunk cost. And there's one rule that you don't chase bad projects with good money.
Right.
And I know that Finance Minister, per his experience in Yale, knows these very valid points. And I know for sure that as it stands now, per the leashes that we have, we will not be at liberty to spend as we were doing a few years before COVID. Because of even just the fact that funds are hard to come by. So I know in real certainty, although I don't sit in cabinet, that government has dialed back on a number of projects. And I think in due time, we will hear, because I think even today, Dr. Nsia Sari will be commenting at the Ministry of Information with regards to Agenda 111. And other...
That is the advisor on health.
Correct.
Right.
So we'll be able to appreciate some of the nuances regarding the Agenda 111.
I mean, it shouldn't be a problem to say, for example, Agenda 111, but you know what? Within the fiscal room that we have, look, we're going to construct 10 or 6 and do them well, ensure that they are stocked and all of that.
That's why I'm saying that, there's been some dial backs, I'm sure. I mean, let me cite one that I can talk of.
You can guarantee.
Which is the Swami, the change we did in the last session.
You mean the interchange?
Yeah, no, I'm saying the change we did in terms of moving funds from one project
right. I now get it.
To another place. So these are clearly decisions that have showed or demonstrated that there's been a dial down on some projects.
Okay.
So I really think that moving forward, we will be seeing, and I think Finance Minister in the last couple of weeks even made that clear that there will be infrastructural changes.
It's really difficult now when such things are mentioned.
I'm just saying
and
that
when the finance minister especially says some of these things, it's really difficult to, until you see implementation.
Well, he's put it in writing.
It is, okay.
He has put it in writing.
Let's see how it goes.
The document was shared, I think.
Let's see how it goes in terms of implementation. But good point there.
Yes.
Quickly on that.
Yeah, it's, every time you come to me, you say I should do it quickly, but you give you enough time to speak. Anyway, now, I don't think the finance minister is giving us...
But I don't stop you when you're speaking,
don't.
Do I?
I don't think the finance minister is giving us what Yale taught him. Oh. Yes, honestly. It's not giving us what Yale did.
Do you have to go?
I have to go there.
Do you have to go?
Look, 98
but this is a bit like chopping a man at his knees. 98
of your colleagues said they should go. So I am not saying so. His own MP said he should go. He's not giving us quality management of the economy.
Hold your.
I won't heckle.
That's one.
I won't heckle.
I know. The Agenda 111. It's something I follow passionately.
You have one in your district?
I do.
Oh. Wow.
Government is actually not constructing the 111. They are constructing 45. They call it phase 1. Okay, phase 1. So they dotted it in districts that presently don't have district hospitals. So there are about 7 of them 7 or 6 in the Water region. And I do have one. Now, regarding...
What is the state of that one that you have?
It's progressing. I spoke about it here.
If you had to give it a percentage in terms of completion.
I think it's about 65.
Excellent.
They are roofing
65%.
now. They are roofing now.
Excellent.
So I want that project to be honest.
I'm sure he would be very happy for that project to be completed.
I have
so I don't think he would have any...
No. I have actually commended government for that. Okay. And
where exactly is it located?
It's at Beve.
Beve.
Okay, it's at Beve. All right. So, but the other issue is in respect of the matter he raised, abandoned projects. I'm actually in court. I've sued government in respect of the E-blocks.
Right.
The E-blocks.
I think I recall.
Yes, the E-blocks is one of the projects that we ought.
We've done many.
You haven't done many. You see, as a government that is rolling out free SHS policy, the completion of the E-blocks ought to have been prioritized to be able to give you more facility to expand access. E-blocks have been completed and are sitting in the bush. I don't have to belabor this point. A lot of documentaries have been done on this. And I agree that, you see, these are monies that are locked up. The facility is not being put to the purpose for which it's been put up. It's important that we address this matter. If you read the PIAC report, which comes to us every year, the assessment of the PIAC committee is that a lot of projects that are undertaken by the fund either are abandoned somehow or completed, not put to use. Auditor General's report that he and I interrogate as members of the committee is replete with reports or audit findings that projects completed, not put to the purpose for which they be, and that it takes a parliamentary committee to direct that the project be put to the purpose for which it was set up. Totally needless. So we need to unlock funds locked up in this project and complete those that we had started. We were assured by government a year ago that as part of their priority economic measures, they were going to prioritize projects and complete those that had been started before they start new ones. But as we speak, they've reneged on that policy. They are starting new projects. Uncompleted ones are still in a state of abandonment.
Okay.
So as a people, we need to interrogate this. It's a very important point you have raised.
All right. So that definitely, and of course, in the economic straits in which we find ourselves, we cannot run away from it. If what is going to affect your bread and butter is under siege, you can't pretend.
No, it's the government promised us to prioritize.
Right.
A year ago. They are not prioritized.
So just to cap off the conversation, gentlemen, this one is just by the way, in terms of our economy and maybe related to the Fitch thing. Things will get better. That is what Mr. President is saying. I don't know how optimistic you are, but it's not granted. It's not a given. It's something we must scrape.
We are working towards.
But the point I want us to look at, this is a lighter note, but it's very relevant in our social context.
Okay.
Yvonne Nelson and Sarkodie.
Okay.
I think they are taking each other to the cleaners now.
The media is encouraging it.
Well, they have put it out there. Whether or not the media may have done this or that, I have actually not posted anything on this.
So I'm not going to comment about it.
I have only.
So I'm not going to comment about it.
Well, it's your choice, but I feel as a social issue, Sam George came here and shared some pretty interesting thoughts on this matter. My question to you, both of you. What do you make of this saga, and maybe what are the lessons to take from there? I've listened to Sarkodie. You see a lot of
legal issues.
On what exactly?
With regards to this whole saga.
On what exactly?
But I like I said, I don't think I have the time and energy to even talk about this on air. It's not necessary.
Roxanne,
I want to comment on the president's take that things will get better. Things ain't getting better. Cement is 100 cedis now, from about 30 cedis. Petrol, it's much higher than he came to inherit it. So I don't understand where the president is getting this from, that things will get better. In terms of what?
Cost of living.
It's getting higher.
It will improve.
How?
Inflation is what's contributing.
Improve by decreasing prices.
There are two ways.
Do you know the rate of inflation you inherited in 2017?
Pre-COVID?
No, you see, forget about pre-COVID.
No, I'm just saying pre-COVID, right?
No, when you inherited the economy in 2017,
pre-COVID.
Do you know the inflation rate?
I'm saying
it was 19.
Worldwide.
It was 19.
Worldwide.
And you lambasted us.
No, worldwide
you came to parliament to say that you brought inflation down to a single digit.
Worldwide.
Kissy, hold
inflation rate.
Kissy, hold on.
I was just talking to some friends of mine who are in Germany.
This is my time.
And they've been...
Stop heckling me.
No, I'm not heckling. You asked me, and I'm telling you that worldwide...
You see, you came to parliament to lambast the NDC and praise yourself that you brought inflation to a single decade, 9%.
Pre-COVID.
Your minister came to sing praises.
Pre-COVID.
Today it is 54. He can't talk.
Post-COVID.
Today it is 54%. He can't talk.
Post-COVID. And worldwide,
cedi depreciation.
What are the worldwide
cedi depreciation rates? From 42 now it is 12 cedis, 15 cedis.
Worldwide inflationary rates are high.
How about cedi depreciation?
It's just not.
Is that also worldwide? So, my brother,
right?
The president, this assurance from the president has no basis because things aren't getting better. Two, if one else said, honestly, we've been in the bush, so we're having a hard time to pay attention to what's happening. But I think it's bad. It's a lesson to young people that, yes, by all means, get into relationships. That's how we all got married. But we should be careful.
We should be careful. Before we go, gentlemen, let's bring in Justin Frimpong Kodria. He is General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. A very good morning to you, JFK. Hello, Mr. Frimpong Kodria. Can you hear me, sir? All right, so we're expecting to have a brief interaction with Justin Frimpong Kodria, who is General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, of course, on the back of the Asin North by-election and what transpired there. Let me try one more time. Mr. Frimpong Kodria, a very good morning to you.
Yes, good morning.
Finally, thank God we have you joining the conversation. I hope you're well, sir.
Yes, I'm doing great.
We thank God. What do you make of the show of the MPP in Asin North? The Asin North, the Asin area generally, because it was, before it was split, Kennedy Japon was a member of parliament. Then when it was split, he became the member of parliament for Asin Central. But it appears your fortunes over the last two elections, I mean the main election and the by-election, have not been that good. What do you make of what happened?
Good morning to your cherished listeners and viewers. And I want to use this opportunity to congratulate the NDC and Mr. Dafeamekpor for winning the primary, and also to commend the good people of Asin North for the exercise that was conducted and the way they comported themselves, and also the electoral commission and the security agencies. It goes further to keeping our multi-party democracy, and since 1992 we have been having elections every 4 years, and also with some by-elections. And for me, it is Ghana that won the elections, and I also commend our party supporters and members for the good show that we put at Asin North. For every election, every political party goes in to win. And definitely if we had won, the narrative or the discussion this morning would have been different.
Right.
So what I can say is that it was a by-election, and we knew it was going to be a difficult election against a person who had won in 2020. And also was known or is known in the constituency as against our candidates who won our primaries about under a month ago. So definitely we didn't have enough time to market him. But we've learned lessons from it, and as a party, we have taken it in good faith. We just dust ourselves off and give another shot in 2024. That's what I have to say.
All right, a few more things, if you may. I'm curious, though, there was a woman who had contested before on the ticket of the MPP. And she had gone toe-to-toe with Jackie Quayson and lost. Wasn't it a simple... in fact, she had been the member of parliament there. Why wasn't it simple, I mean, for the MPP to go with her instead?
Well, if you have followed the tradition of the New Patriotic Party, you are always open to contest. So, in line with that, our party opened nominations for anyone who had interest to contest. She didn't pick bomb, so it's assumed that for some reason maybe she didn't want to contest. So, and that is what happened. So it's not like we put a candidate on the delegates of our friend of we opened the contest and those who had interest came to pick forms and contested.
Sami Jemfi of the NDC referred to your candidate Charles Opoku as a political prostitute. I hear he dabbled with the NDC and joined your party. Were you aware of this dynamic?
Well, I believe you should have asked Sami if any evidence to substantiate that claim. For me, I didn't have any information to that effect. Now, on the issue of money, both parties were accused, the NDC and the MPP, but more on the end of the MPP from what we gathered on the day. How do we deal with this issue of money in our politics? Do you admit that it's becoming a huge problem, or it has become a big problem? It's rather unfortunate you make that statement that more was what we gathered on the
Well,
MPP.
I'm merely saying that in terms of reportage, we heard more accusations from the NDC side on your side. If you paid attention to our coverage, you would have realized same. I never said that maybe more actually happened. I said for our reportage.
It depends on what you wanted to cover. At the end of the day,
It depends on the people we interacted with, not what we wanted to cover.
It depends. At least it depends on where you stand, my brother. So at the end of the day, anyone who went there saw what happened. And I will not say because I'm MPP, I will say we are holy. At least the cats are called both MPP and NDC. So if you want to be fair, you just have to be fair on that point. And if you are talking about how we address those issues, it's a candid question that we all have to look at.
So what do we do moving forward as all parties? Because I started by talking about the fact that both parties have been involved. So what is the way forward?
Yes, I believe it would have been better to have ended it there. That it is something that came across at both parties. But anyway, going forward, basically as a country and as political parties, we all need to sit down and look at how best we can conduct elections based on ideas, based on policies, based on programs that we'll be able to espouse to the voters. And it's something that I agree that we need to look at it, even from each political party, our internal elections to the general elections. It's something that as a country we all have to have a critical look at it. But you go into elections, you have strategies. And if part of your strategy, it means that getting to voters, understanding their concerns and plights. There are certain places that we went that people would demand, my roofing speed has gone up, I need support, and people will come to you, I want to do this business, you need to support me to do that business. And some people will come with all sorts of concerns and complaints. And if you're a political party and you want to win an election, definitely you cannot turn your back on such a request. Definitely you have to meet the person halfway. So if in the course of doing all these things, definitely there will be a exchange of money. Because at the end of the day, if someone is claiming that he's sick, he needs money to go to hospital, you have to give the person money. If someone is saying his roofing speed has gone off, and you have to buy it for the person. So it's something that in our body politics that we need to have a look at.
All right. We're grateful for your time. We really have to go, but in some 30 seconds, if you will just oblige me for some 30 seconds, the Fitch, position on election 2024, just give me some 20 to 30 seconds. What does that mean for the MPP? How have you received it?
No. For us, as where we sit, we welcome every constructive criticism, suggestions, and comments, and we take everything in good faith. All will be to our advantage. It's better for us to accept the criticism than to pretend that it doesn't exist. At least then it will make us complacent, and that's something we want to avoid.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for joining the conversation. Justin Frimpong Kodua is General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. Asana Etuam says, very nice conversation. There's also Jejom Jr. who says, please kindly ask my MP for Awoshi Soutum, you are saying, Anya Soutum, that why he and his people have abandoned us. The roads are terrible. Agape Road is in a dilapidated state, but I don't think it's about being abandoned. He's actually been on the ground. Would you like to, remove your mouth in some 20 seconds? And then we are done. You are the final person speaking.
We'll keep pushing and hopefully have some results with Agape. It's really bad. I must admit, I was there recently. It's quite bad. At the barest minimum, when the rains are out, we will do some resurfacing. That is within our power, within the constituency. We'll try and do that. But beyond that, we need bigger budget.
A bigger budget.
Which we cannot sustain.
Right. Yeah. Gentlemen, thank you so much. So they say the first shall be last and last shall be first. We were joined by Justin Frimpong Kodia, General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, and here in the studio by Roxanne Nelson, Dafeamekpor, Member of Parliament for South Dai, and Dr. Dixon Adomako Kisi, Member of Parliament, Anya Soutum. You're still live on the AM show. There's more coming your way right after this break.
A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for staying here on the AM show. Just gone by, Benjamin was engaging two MPs from the main political sides on various issues. It's now time for us to have a very, very important conversation. It's one we've had before, but emphasis is important and the need to continue to put prominence on it to ensure that it remains a relevant conversation across the board. We're talking about precision quality today and also the need to help in dealing with the high unemployment rate in our country. According to the 2021 population census, over 50% of Ghana's population is under 25. Unfortunately, many of these young people do not get jobs, are either told to be entrepreneurs when they do not have what it takes to survive in the industry. I'm so pleased this morning to host Madam Constance Swanica. If you're somebody who appreciates precision quality, this is a name that you should not be alien to. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And thank you so much for joining us. She founded and also is the president of the Design Training Institute, DTI. And she's the also, she is the one who created the arts and accents. Is it accents and arts? Sorry, I missed that. Accents and arts. They're very creative people and do a lot of designs. And there is a program happening tomorrow, and she's here to tell us more about that. Before we go into the program, though, I mentioned you being president of the DTI. Do you mind telling us what inspired the creation of DTI and what you do?
So basically, Design and Technology Institute is a skills and education center. We're in the business of reskilling and upskilling young people and preparing them better for the world of work to meet the needs of industry. I think in the last few years, and I think more recently, there's been a lot of talk about whether we're transitioning young people and preparing them for the world of work, especially because skill sets and everything is changing so rapidly in the face of technological advances. And so DTI was set up to really fill that gap between academia and the world of work.
And DTI is a place you should visit. She's giving you a mental picture of what it is, but until you get there, you cannot have a complete understanding and appreciation of what they do there. You can pass by their school premises. So there is also the conversation of precision quality, because I understand that DTI was established not only to fill the gap, but to fill it excellently. Exactly. So what is precision quality, and why is it something that we should pay keen attention to, especially for young people who want to be relevant and fit in the criteria for industry?
So precision quality really is a concept around doing things to meet the standards and the needs, requirements of the market. And I think when you look at our DNA of production and manufacturing, there hasn't really been an emphasis on why there's the need to do things precisely and also, have the underlying quality mindset. And this is something that is missing in the way we're trained to do things. And so when you look at the influx of foreign goods and even services that is being rendered by expats or things that are imported, the consumer actually prefers things that are imported. Because when you look at things that are produced here, I mean, there's a huge difference between the product when you put things together. And so as we really push and advocate for manufacturing and, the need to create jobs that would compete globally, these are concepts that we cannot overemphasize. It's not in the business of doing things and thinking that it's okay. It's not. And I think that when you work in high precision industries, especially in the manufacturing sector, you find that everything is of global standard. And so this is a concept that we're really advocating for. And for everybody to begin to understand that having a precision quality mindset begins with a mindset. It's a mindset shift of being aware of doing things deliberately and intentionally.
I think that for many people, they think it's hard, also because they are not skilled to be precise and offer quality. What would you like to say to those who say, it's hard, I've been trying to get this straight, I've been trying very hard to shift my mind and tell me it's possible, but it's a lot of hard work, isn't it? And while we shift our minds, we must be ready and brace ourselves for the fact that it's not going to come like with the snap of a finger.
Actually, change is difficult. You say that, well, this is how it's been done for many, many years. And when you deal with our local artisans who have gone through the apprentice system, who, have had the skill passed on from generations, that's all they've known. So we don't expect that overnight, you'd start telling them, start doing things properly. But a lot of the times, it's actually the lack of even using the right tools and the right instruments to measure precision. So for instance, if you're measuring and when you're doing things at precise, the margin of error should be really, almost zero, which means that using the right calipers, using the right tools that will enable you to measure precision. And I think that sometimes it's just a lack of knowledge that people are just not aware that the human eye cannot detect error. So it's the use of machines, and sometimes these things don't cost much. Are you using the right measuring tapes, the right T-squares? What sort of equipment are you using to ensure that, even just a common level? You have a bricklayer who's doing something and obviously can see that everything is crooked. You see the level next to him and he's not using it. He'll tell you, oh, but I stood back and I gauged and it looked okay. But yet when you stand back, you see that everything is crooked. Industry doesn't work like that. And that's why when you look at a lot of the construction going on, you see actually a lot of foreigners who actually would dominate the construction industry. And so we shouldn't say that this is how it's been done for generations, so we should accept this status quo. For us to be able to compete globally, there is a need for us to be deliberate that the world, the currency for trade is actually quality and standards, really.
Right. I know you can relate as she's talking about buildings. You may have seen a pillar that's slightly tilted to the left or right. I know buildings in this country that have been left abandoned because of concerns or collapsed. Recently, we had a couple of them. So these are important things that we must all pay attention to. So here's what Constance and the team at DTI have been doing for some time. They've put together a conference, right? Tell us about it.
So in the last couple of years, in the last 3 years actually, we realized that there has to be a lot of conversations around this concept. And so every year what we do is to bring together all the relevant stakeholders from industry, from academia, from young people who enter the job market, from industry that is dictating its demands, and policymakers. Because when we look at the curriculum that we actually use to train young people, whether it's in an apprenticeship, informal sector, or in a more formalized sector. These are, the concept that's generally missing. And so we realize that there has to be very high-level conversations around how do we use policy to ensure that this would drive the changes that we need to see, especially because we're talking about high unemployment rates and what are the barriers that is preventing young people from entering the world of work. Industry is not saying that there are no jobs. There are actually an abundance of jobs.
High-paying ones.
High-paying ones, and the more industry would pay, then the more the expectations of the standards is expected. And so I think it's time that we just stop talking, but how do we use private sector to really drive, some of these changes that we're talking about.
What has been the feedback over the years? This is the 4th edition, which will be hosted tomorrow. What have you been told by those who participated, and generally in terms of formulating policy, what feedback have you received?
It's really been really interesting. I think when we started the conversation around precision quality, it couldn't have been timely when you look at what is happening in the ecosystem. And so it was really well embraced. In the last the last 3 years, if I may say, the movement has really grown beyond our wildest dreams. And I think this is an important topic that nobody had really put these two words together as the missing link. I must also commend the public sector, who really should be the ones who are creating the right enabling environments for industry to thrive, and how they've worked very closely with us from the private sector side. When you also look at the informal sector, who also acknowledge that the way they've been doing things is not acceptable. I think at the end of the day, everybody is interested in what will move the country forward. And so this is when you have conversations around non-partisan conversations, but everybody understands that there's a problem and what do we do to fix it collectively. So what is the role of stakeholders working together to understand that, at the end of the day, we all want young people to get those, dignified and fulfilling jobs that are out there. And so for me, it's exciting to see that with all the noise that goes on around the country, it's not all gloomy, but when you look at what stakeholders are doing, we are very concerned. And so we're really excited, that our stakeholders have also embraced this conversation very well.
So what's the theme and who will be speaking at this conference?
So at the conference, it's the role of stakeholders in driving job creation. And so we have quite a number of vice chancellors from the universities who are supposed to be the ones who are transitioning graduates into the world of work. We have captains of industry. We also have the Deputy Minister for Labour and Employment Relations. And then we also have the informal sector and young people. So basically everybody who should be at the table is going to be at this conference tomorrow.
I have been to DTI. Like I said, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. And when you get there, you realize that everything is not just in the air or at the theory level, is very practical down to the very basic. And they have a mantra there: talk less, do more. So what is the big dream for this conference as you put people together? It's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of investment, but there's a goal to this, right? Do you mind sharing with us?
I must say that, when you begin to work on important and relevant conversations, our stakeholders understand that this is not just what DTI is doing alone, but everybody understands the role that they all play. And this is something that I would like to stress, that when you talk about things that, especially policy that would drive the next steps, the role of the public sector is to create the enabling environment. So instead of us sitting and also complaining and expecting the government, they have this saying, hey, you're buying, everything you're waiting for are buying. I don't think that when you look at consensus building and nation building, if I may use that word, what does it take for us to ensure that we're driving our nation to where we want to get to? And I think this is something that as citizens, it all lies with us. If young people are unemployed, then that means that you will not sleep well at night. So whatever happens in the ecosystem affects you. So what does co-creation and what does collaboration really look like when we talk about, some of these topics?
And this is important for those of you who are watching. Like I said, I know you can relate. There's a dress you took to the seamstress. It didn't come the way you wanted it, right? There was a device you took for it to be fixed. It didn't come back. In fact, it was worse than you took it. These are all things that affect us every day. And ma'am, I'm sure there's somebody watching us that I want to be a part of this. Maybe she runs a school. Maybe she, and don't even cooking, right? You're a caterer. What's the quality of meal you're serving? Does it taste the same way every day? Yeah. Or you always give us a dose of how you feel when you're pouring in the ingredients?
Exactly.
And there are people at home who are thinking, this is a good initiative. Maybe I have an apprentice. I run a training school for seamstresses and designers, and I want to be a part of this. It's happening at the Labadi Beach Hotel tomorrow, but I'm sure we can accommodate everybody who wants to be a part. So how do they join? How do they feel a part of this?
It's being live streamed on actually some of the media channels. So because we want this to be a nationwide conversation, we do understand that, the topic is very relevant and a lot of people are beginning to ask questions, so they're most welcome to join us and to share their comments, and for us to make them part of the conference remotely.
Great. Madame Constance Swanica here, she's a champion of precision quality, and over the years, she's gotten people to rally behind it. The last time she was here, she told us how difficult it was, even getting artisans to get the concept of being precise and producing quality products. But over the years, she's amassed such a following and a people who believe in the concept. Mind you, this is not only for just creating products, it's also creating employment and making young people employable because we have quality here in Ghana. Trust me, there are people from Ghana who are working outside the country. They're brilliant, but it's just because they got the right training, the right certification. And that's what this is all about. So join us tomorrow at the Labadi Beach Hotel. It will be live streamed here on the Joy News channel, also on My Joy Online. You can be a part of it. Send us your comments. Learn something so that together we can build the nation. Thank you once again. That will be it for our conversation. We've got more right here on the AM show. Do stay. Good morning. It's me once again. Thank you for staying on the AM show. We did something academia, industry. We're still staying in that arena because there's something happening at the UPSC, a public lecture on artificial reproductive technology, ethical and legal considerations through an African prism. That's a very pregnant topic, but I've got the right people to break it down for all of us to perfectly understand. Joining me in studio is Professor Lethlokwa George Mpendi. He's Vice Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg in South Africa. And Abba Loko is Director of Public Affairs at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, UPSA. Good morning, Prof. Good morning, Abba. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Very well.
Right, and just before we came on, I was commending Abba and the team at UPSA for such a wonderful thing they're doing in building the school, creating such a wonderful image. And I say this because growing up and going, making a choice for higher studies, UPSA was never in the mix because at the time the notion was, it was a professional school, but now you've projected the school so well, and this is one of the things you're doing, contributing to academia and increasingly projecting the school to be one of choice, and the greening that. We'll have a conversation on that on another day. But Prof, welcome to Ghana.
Oh, thank you.
Have you
Good
tried
morning.
any of our meals yet?
Yes, I had goat soup yesterday.
And just goat soup?
Yeah. Look, this is my fourth visit, so I had curry and so on.
All right.
But I'm enjoying steamed rice more,
Okay, great. So let's talk about this really pregnant topic that is going to be discussed tomorrow at that public lecture. Why is it so important for us to focus on that?
Yeah, it's extremely important because this is what is happening. This is the future. And as Africans, we tend to be left behind, in contributing towards this type of discussions. A lot of people go through this reproductive technology, but they don't think about the implications. For example, when a young couple that is having difficulties to conceive, go through this, lots of eggs are fertilized and left behind. After being blessed with children, they forget about those eggs. The question remains, are those property? What will people do with those? And so on. So there's a lot from a legal and ethical point of view that is necessary for us to debate these issues.
This is a very interesting one. I want to be a part of it. And Abba will be telling us more on how to be part, contribute, listen to that public lecture. But Doc, Prof, I beg your pardon, you've also written a book, and at the event you'll be launching that. It's Labor Law in Ghana. Interesting. I mean, top of my mind, you're South African, right? What's the interest? About labor?
I mean, why should a South African have an interest in the Ghanaian?
Labor law in Ghana.
Look, I'm a labor and social security law expert, and I've got close ties with Ghana. As you can see now, we're launching this book at UPSA. And through some initiatives, we brought a number of Ghanaian students to study in South Africa at my university, the University of Johannesburg. And Dr. Edwin Coleman is one of those students, and he was my student assistant and so on, and now he's my postdoctoral research fellow. He came as a mister, and as I would tell him that a doctor will leave South Africa if he leaves. And I asked about the situation in Ghana, and he used to lament the lack of an authoritative text, written, on labor law in Ghana, critically analyzing the situation. And we did a lot on research in South Africa and Southern Africa, and I said, look, let's give back. Let's work together on this. And it was an exciting project, and I'm so happy that we are launching it here. And Dr. Coleman is Ghanaian, Yeah. So I was supporting him, but working together.
Oh, that's wonderful. So for all of you interested in law students, practicing lawyers, this is one that you should get. Labor Law in Ghana, LG Impendi in T.E. Coleman. It's not as intimidating as some of the law books I've seen, so this is a friendly text.
No, it was deliberate. Because you have people in HR that are not lawyers who should be able to work with this type of text.
Exactly, and that's why I'm grateful. Thank you. Thank you for making it friendly for all of us. But let me come to you, Abba, before I wrap it up with Doc. For you at UPSA, what is the goal? What are you hoping to achieve by bringing in Doc Prof all the way from South Africa and having this very interesting conversation on artificial reproduction?
So at UPSA, as you said, and thanks for all the compliments, the public lectures are a means we engage with the public, educating the public, getting them in the conversation. And we choose very topical subjects to educate everyone. I mean, this subject matter, for you, for me, for the average person, we may think it doesn't really matter, but the times we are in allows us to educate ourselves and be prepared in advance for the things that are coming in that space. So we actually invite very knowledgeable people, experts in their field, and Prof is one of such. We have a partnership with the University of Johannesburg, and so the Vice Chancellor of the University of UPSA, Professor Abednego Amati, is hosting him, and he's delivering this lecture. And at this lecture, we will launch his book as well. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the Kofi Ohene Kunedu Auditorium at UPSA. We would love to have all of you come and join. Yes, and I believe you will come in and not leave the same.
Obviously, it's important. And when Abba was just talking about why it's important, I was just reminded of a story I heard about how young university young men, are not donating, they're selling.
Yes, I heard about we had that conversation.
Yeah, so they're selling their sperms to all these fertility centers.
Yes.
And I just wonder what goes into the legalities. Are is there any
and
document or contract agreement and what exactly is being done with those specimens that you're giving out.
Yes, and that's the conversation we would have tomorrow. It's not just the young men, the young ladies are also availing themselves to surrogates for mothers who are unable to carry their own babies. So, I mean, it's a conversation we're having. Yes.
Trust me, it's not boring. You know, there's some public lecture topics that you get.
No, this one you know.
It's so above the roof, you know. Yeah. But this is something that speaks to our times, speaks to the generation. Yes. So, what are you likely to touch on? I don't want you to give. I just want you to tease people on why they need to be there.
Topics that I'll touch on. This issue of sperm donation, it's a big issue. There's actually a case that came out this year in the Netherlands where this guy fathered over 500 children. And was being sued. The judge said to him, no more babies. If there's more, one baby, you will be fined the equivalent of 2 million rands, because there's a risk of siblings marrying each other. So I'm worried about what I'm hearing if there's no control. So this is like fire. If it's abused, it's dangerous. So you'll hear about sperm donation. You'll hear about embryo adoption. You'll hear about artificial wombs. You'll hear about posthumous conception. So it's really an interesting, I'm fascinated by this, and we need all the people to be aware of the risks, but also our policymakers to be on top of their game, because if they fall behind, these technologies are going to get ahead of us, and here we're dealing with the human race. We talk about gene editing. Designer babies. We all want our kids to be the best. But where will this lead us? If they take out some genes and add other genes, it might be nice now, but we don't know what will happen to that baby and that baby's babies. So,
So there again, I'm reminded of a conversation I had with some of my colleagues. We were talking about the G6PD deficiency. And one of them said, oh, I'm G6PD deficient. And then another jokingly said, if you were
deficient,
take mine. An IVF, or if doctors had to study your mother's eggs, you'll be eliminated because you have a deficiency. They won't even permit fertilization for you. So it's a very important thing. And thank you for drawing my mind to this. I never thought about this, that we're likely going to have inbreeding because technically another person is my father, but I may not know, and then I go and marry my sister, and that will lead to complications, further health complications.
Psychological issues, easily.
I mean, all the privacy that surrounds, you know,
this thing. And I'm just beginning to wonder if our health regulators in Ghana even have any policy or any document guiding this whole thing of sperm donation.
A new field. And that's why we've invited all of them to be present at the event.
Oh,
so
I love this.
Come.
You have no idea.
Come and let's have this conversation. Please. Because I'm looking forward to
Would this be live streamed?
Yes,
just for people who are not in Accra.
We have partnered with multimedia, and so it will be carried live on most of your platforms.
Okay, but you can also follow UPSA on social media. I'm sure it will be live streamed there. Please, this should matter to you, honestly. Artificial reproductive technology, ethical and legal considerations through an African prism. We've seen what's happening elsewhere, but we have to contextualize it. We have to localize it. And here, local is Africa. So, Professor Lethlokwa George Mpendi will be delivering that lecture. Mapito, thanks to you. I'm developing a South African accent. I'm doing well with pronouncing South African names. So he's Vice Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg, and he will be delivering that lecture. Thank you so much, as well as launching this book he co-authored with T.E. Coleman. And T.E. Coleman is a Ghanaian, a young Ghanaian who went to study in his university, and according to Prof, he's doing such a great work. So you should get a copy of the book when it's launched. It will be at UPSA stores, right?
Yes.
Okay.
At 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Right, 10 a.m. tomorrow. Do make a date.
All roads should lead to UPSA.
Yes. Find your way there. Thank you so much. Abaloko is Director, Public Affairs, University of Professional Studies, Accra, and Professor George Mpendi is Vice Chancellor, University of Johannesburg. It's been an interesting conversation. Thank you so much. And I'll be back with Benjamin to wrap up the show. Do stay with us. Thank you so much. It's me again. Benjamin has joined me this time. And you know, when you see the two of us, it's time for audience engagement. We've tackled quite a lot today, and we have time to hear your thoughts on those as well. So, Benjamin, that was an interesting conversation you had with the MPs and Mr. Kudia, who is General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. The Asen North by-election was quite an interesting one.
It's one of those, I think it will be in our memories for a while. I mean, the way everything, they went about the processes, how the former president, the current president, members of parliament. The interesting thing, on the day, parliamentary work basically came, it ground to a halt.
Of course.
Came to a standstill.
Yes.
I didn't see that coming. I mean, I knew a number of them, but I didn't think it was such numbers.
It
We had
tells
less than,
you,
what, 10
it
MPs
tells
in
you
parliament.
how important that seat is, considering the numbers and the dynamics in Parliament, right? Remember when we're doing the Kumewu by-election, we said that this was critical because if it went anyway, it could now be to the advantage or disadvantage of one of the sides.
The parties.
And NPP maintained. So this was critical. They wanted to take it at all costs, and the NDC wanted to retain. So, I mean, it was just an interesting,
I mean,
one.
I was just following it.
Yeah.
And I was just, my only prayer was that, yes, the process would go through, but that it would be peaceful. It wouldn't be
There were
fraught
issues
with.
of
There were
violence,
a few.
which included gunshots, and that for me was, I mean, even if it was just one episode of violence, the gunshot tells you the gravity of it. We have Abendao calling us. Hello, Abendao. It's been a while. What would you like to tell us? We are all ears.
Good morning, Akakwe and Benis.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Benis, you also went away, so I would say Akwaba.
Medase.
Thank God that Senate by-election was interesting in the sense that after the elections, there was no any complaint of election malpractices or this or that. But before then, there was accusation from various angles of suspicion of election malpractice. But thank God that everything was free and fair and peaceful. So we expect all elections to be free and fair and peaceful so that the image that Ghana has in Africa as having democratic consolidation, it can continue. So that at least, even if our economy is weak, at least we can also be proud of our electoral performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Abendao, for sharing your thoughts with us. And if you'd also like to share your thoughts on anything we've spoken about, precision quality, and Benjamin, that one is a subject that excites me so much because you would... I was just learning, right, a couple of days ago that even for our oil rigs, there are people... I mean, I was going to use the word imported. There are people who have to come,
expatriates, right,
to work because our people do not have the certification. Industry is not looking for your degree certificate. You know, there's standard examinations that are recognized across the world to certify that you have a certain qualification or skill. And there's so many jobs. Construction, you spoke about. I mean,
but even there is some formula where when these foreign entities come into the country, they are supposed to train the Ghanaians so that after a number of years, they can take over.
Look, someone told me that mining corporations are willing to pay a fine to bring an expert than use a Ghanaian. It tells you there's a problem. And it's from the foundation, the training, the skill set. It's something that we should pay keen attention to, especially since we've started talking about TVET. We can't do TVET in a vacuum. We must do relevant.
It must be practical.
Exactly. And it must be relevant worldwide. Akonoba is also joining us. Hello, Akonoba. Let's hear you.
Yeah, my beautiful lady and my gentleman. How are you guys?
We are good. Thanks for calling. Thanks for your kind words as well.
Yeah, and John News, kudos to you for your extensive coverage. But you see, I don't understand why. I think Evans must answer why you delayed in, also putting out your provisional result, because that has not been your case. Anytime you have your men on the ground.
When you say we delayed, what exactly do you mean?
Yeah, at the time that most of the FM stations, especially your sister station at Dome FM, was getting the results from their their reporters. Joy News was telecasting a different thing, but it has just by the way.
Okay, thank you for the feedback. Thank you for the feedback.
And your information are also credible. You see, there's a popular song. Yeah, yo. The song speaks a lot too. This government, Dr. Bawumia and Nana Akufo, they think money is everything. That's their mind though. I'm telling you, they think money is everything. But they don't know that, for example, me and you, or me and your colleague there, our minds are different. We analyze things based on merit. I think they don't know that. So they think everything, money. Ghanaians are saying we are suffering. The quote-unquote, the lies from the government are too much. Instead of them to accept responsibility and carry the nation along, everything money. And yet the musicano. So it's a call to them. If Bawumia don't take care, we are also going to cut his money and do the same thing to him. Yes, because everything is not about money. Go to the people. Now that NDC has won, they've learned a lesson from it. NDC and NPP and this government should also learn a lesson from it. You don't wait till election and you begin to construct roads overnight. What do you take the people for?
Yes, thank you for your thoughts, Akonoba. We are grateful to you. We are running out of time, but we get the gist of what you are communicating, Benjamin. The issue of money. I remember you asked JFK that question. Yeah. And on my way to work, I was listening into a conversation on a station, and the usual excuse is that it was for transportation. Giving out money.
I'm tired of these politicians and these white lies, these blatant lies about. We all see, we all know. It's transportation. It's another way of saying we're not going to stop the practice. That's it.
We have our last caller calling us from Wa. Is it Prince? Chris. Hello, Chris. How are you and how's Wa?
Fine, thank you.
Great. Let's hear what you have to say.
Very great.
Thank you.
Yes. We want to say thank you for the coverage. In fact, entirely, Johnny, you did so well. Yeah, we are most grateful. The Assin North by-election was just an example of what would happen in 2024. So it is high time for all politicians to take a lesson from it. Just like my colleagues who have just gone down indicated, this time around, politics is not all about money. At least you have to listen to what the people are saying. Listen to them. What they need is what you have to go by and at least comply. You don't wait till they need, then you come on board.
Right, thank you very much, Chris, for sharing your thoughts, and that's how we'll end our interactive segment with you. But Benjamin, it's been an interesting day.
It has been an interesting day. I would say the members of parliament made my day today. They didn't heckle too much. I don't want to use the word well behaved or the term well behaved, but they made my work a bit easier today. And I was interested in the points they made on the IPPs, on the political situation, on the Fitch projection and all of that. But let's see what tomorrow brings on the AM show. We bring the finest of morning television.
Of course we do. And it's because we keep you in mind, serving you the very best, letting you in on what matters to you. But today, that would be it. Benjamin and I are grateful that you take time to be with us. Up next is News Desk. Until then, take care, stay safe.